All right. So welcome to our first class with Pastoroftheway. I have been so impressed with him, and our story is kind of funny. He actually reached out to me after he saw my W4 video and told me in a very nice way that I had some things not accurate. And so then he helped actually teach me quite a few things and showed me the proof of it. And I just really like the way he presents information. So here we are now. And I did, like the lady Kathy said, she had found his video underneath that link that I invited people to come to this class. Very good video. If you haven't seen it, you can go back and repeat it because it will go along with a lot of the information today. It has a lot of stuff. So a lot of you may have had questions thinking that I was going to answer Q&A. I am not. I want to give him his time and the whole 4 hours to give everything that he wants to say out, because you don't want to miss the whole story that he wants to tell. So because people thought that, I will offer a Q&A on Telegram, and I've sent the 4 links out. I'll probably do it on Sandwich on Thursday, and I will post it on Wednesday what time. So if you have any questions, just save them for that day on Thursday, and I will do a Q&A on Telegram. So, and if you could hold all questions until he comes to a breaking point, that way the information is a full picture and the way he wants to present it without any, breaks in his thought patterns and stuff. We can monitor the chat and we'll answer what we can. And then at the very end, when he has breaks, if he wants to answer some questions, he can say so. And we'll just give him that honor today. So I'm done. Take it away.
Yeah, one of the things, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I've done 4 cases, 3 of my own. So I've stood toe to toe with a DA, and that was for somebody else's case. I come in that case as attorney in fact. I did 7-year battle with family court, and I learned during my studies with that battle that things don't add up. You'll hear judges say, don't bring the Constitution into my court. Well, that's a yes and no statement. And it's really boils down to the fact people don't understand the Constitution. But when I did the GSA bonds on that family court case, things changed. They wanted to get rid of us. And the attorney in that case filed papers to get removed from the case and admitted that I was interfering with his fiduciary duty over funds or accounts. And this was in Rule 15 of his professional standards, where it talks about the money or funds in his possession. And it was like, yeah, I've got you now. And then I've had two DOT tickets because I'm a commercial truck driver. And the last one, I've heard this stuff about, KW. He went to probate court and asked what his relation was to that name or that entity. And he read the court ruling on the video, and it's on YouTube. You can just go look up Ken W. birth certificate and agency, and you'll find it. And the court told him that, yes, it's a state agency and you are the agent. Okay. People run around believing that's their name, and it's not their name. It looks like your name. It might even sound like your name, but it's not your name. And people will say, but my mom gave it to me. Well, yes, but we don't realize all the parts. And what I want to show is all the parts, because the birth certificate is not the foundation. Okay. And I totally forgot about this discussion from 3 years ago. Let's see. Now I'm taking you to my Luma Fusion, because I've been working on a video, and now I may not have to because I'm doing it today. So let's see. Let's zoom in. let's go here. When the mother, before the baby was ever born, the mother signed prenatal contracts to authorize care. But guess what? Nobody read the contracts, right? And if you look right here, this was a contract that was done in 2018 in Tennessee. Now, in every state, there's going to be slight modifications, but the rules are going to pretty much apply in every state. Okay. So Trey Ben was the lady I was talking with. She made this discovery helping a family in a family court case. And she went back to the hospital and got all the contracts. And they had to do multiple attempts to get them because they would leave stuff out. And if you didn't know what you were looking for, you wouldn't know it. But right here at you see authorization and assignment. Okay. That assignment, that word is a legal term. Okay. You see, it says this authorization and assignment at the bottom of the paragraph is a permanent one-time signature which will remain on file and will be used for future claims. I may revoke it at any time by written notice. Well, if you don't have a copy of the contract, you're not going to know that. Okay. Now, let's see here. Where's my Westlaw account? Well, let's just do this. No, let's go to my content. That's where I need to go to Black's Law Dictionary. Now, let's see. Let's look at the word assignment. The transfer of rights or property. Now, what was the property? It was you're not going to understand this one yet. It was the product of conception. And I'll go ahead and teaser, there are two products of conception. So when you sign that contract, authorization and assignment, the transfer of rights or property happened. Okay. So now let's do this. The mother, okay. Let's go here. Let's save that one. I'm going to need that one. KRS 213.051. I found this one out because of KW. Okay. Now let's look at this. And it says, information reported by a person who assumes custody of a live-born infant of unknown parentage. 1, the person who assumes the custody of a live-born infant of unknown parentage shall report on a form and in a manner prescribed by the state registrar within 5 working days to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services the following information: the date and place of finding, the sex, and approximate birth date of the child. So when you look at your certificate of live birth, that's an approximate. Name and address of person or institution with which the child has been placed for care. Okay. Name given to the child by the custodian of the child. The mother is accepting the office of custodian because why? When she gave the authorization on the contract, it's no longer hers. Okay. It was abandoned. Okay. Other data as required by the state registrar to complete a birth certificate. 2, the place where the child was found shall be entered as the place of birth. 3, a report registered under this section shall constitute the certificate of birth for the child. Now look at paragraph 4. If the child is identified and a certificate of birth is found or obtained, okay, you mean to tell me they lost it in 5 days? No, that's not what it's saying. In other words, if the mother and father ever later identify the child and produce their record, the report registered under the section shall be placed in a special file and shall not be subject to inspection except upon order of a circuit court. Now, let's go back to the now some of y'all have heard the term that the mother is the informant. Well, yes, what's another word for informant? A snitch. She's snitching on some woman. They don't name it herself. Okay. Now, let's see. Let's go here. Share. Now, I went and got my birth record. Okay. Now check this out. This was the firstborn infant to this type O Rh positive mother whose expected date of confinement was 9/24/73. Now, don't that make you scratch your head? Why is there a confinement? Okay, now let's go. Read the definition of inmate: a person confined in a prison, hospital, or similar institution. Okay. The reason there's a confinement is the infant was abandoned. Abandonment was at one time a criminal act, right? So now if you go to the 4th sentence, it says what? He was found to have a birth weight of 5 pounds 1 ounce. Was I lost? See, they put these words in there and people don't understand what they're saying. You see what I'm saying? Now let's go back to the contract. So you gave an assignment over the baby. Right here, it goes over understanding your medical rights. There is the longer, let's see, let's go. Read that next to last little paragraph. It says the longer notice attached beneath this page contains information to help you understand what is in your medical record and how your health information is used. At the time of this discussion, the longer notice they didn't have. The question is what is in that longer notice? Okay. Now, it says adult consent and evaluation of treatment. Christ Community Health Services is dedicated to providing primary care, dental, mental health services because physical and emotional problems often go together. So they're already making the allegation there are physical and emotional problems. We believe the best care is given when healthcare providers work together. CCHS patients may be referred to providers from other healthcare specialties within CCHS treatment team. Patients are seen by appointment, except in emergencies. Patients can call in advance if they cannot keep their appointment. Information about the patient will not be given to anyone outside of CCHS, including family and friends, unless the patient, parent, or legal guardian, if a minor, gives written permission. However, we may release patient information to others without the patient's permission if the patient possesses a threat to him or herself or others. 2, the patient is unable to protect him or herself from risk of harm. 3, the patient is in the legal custody of a government agency or facility. Well, under the birth record, the infant was abandoned, which means what? Under the 14th Amendment, it became a ward of the state. So, the patient is in the legal custody of a government agency. Okay, there is evidence of child abuse. They're already making the allegation of child abuse. Why? The infant was abandoned. The mother didn't eat right. And you go into these hospitals and seeking care, and they take all these records where you didn't take care of you and your child. You didn't do this. You abandoned the infant before the baby was born. And this is how the state gets control. But there's one thing that they've missed, that everybody's missed. Okay. Now, so, I mean, I can go reading on and on about this, but this is just a short section of what we discussed in that video. So the problem is this. When I saw this document, let me see, let me find it. This is from Anderson's Law Dictionary, 1889. When I saw this document here, it says infant, a person under the age of legal capacity, a minor, but it's the word infancy. The state of one who has not attained his majority. How many of you ever heard of age of majority? Okay. Minority, non-age. So the state of infancy has nothing to do with your age. An infant has a mind, but it is immature, insufficient to justify his assuming a binding obligation. He can do no legal act which will bind him except enter into an apprenticeship, contract for necessaries and teaching, and perhaps enlist in the Army or the Navy. Wait a minute, a baby? No, you can't. Ain't no baby can join the Navy or the Army. An infant can deny or avoid any contract during his majority or after he is of age. Also, for under 12 will a third agent attention. You serve as an agent. He's by his next friend, and he sends his guardian, perhaps by a special guardian item. In the court,
Pastor.
they don't want you to speak.
Pastor, you're breaking up quite a bit. I don't know if you need to readjust your headset or what, but it's only been just now. So if you just want to because we heard you all the way up until talking about how can a baby be in the military?
Yeah. Oh, I can't do no better on my connection. So
well,
I moved over here hoping I could.
Oh, no, you're good now.
Now, okay, so when I said the teaching and perhaps enlist in the Army or the Navy, I said, you mean to tell me a baby can join them? No, that's not what it's saying. An infant doesn't matter about the age. It's a state of mind. He may deny or avoid any other contract during his majority or after he comes of age. At common law, also a male under 14 and a female under 12 cannot make a will, but an infant may serve as agent. Now take that little word agent and put it in the back of your mind. We're going to come back to that. He sues by his guardian or next friend, and he defends by his guardian, perhaps by a special guardian ad litem. So when you go into court and they call the name, you think they're calling your name. They're not calling your name. Okay. They are calling the trust name. Now, we're not to that point yet, but I just wanted to throw that out there. So they don't want you to speak because you're there in an, how do you put it, a representative capacity. You are playing the part of a dummy, okay? Now, before you get all butt hurt, I'm not a dummy. I'm not stupid. Nope, you're not stupid. But that's not what dummy means. Wrong one. Let's go to the next one. Dummy. One, a party who has no interest in a transaction but participates to help achieve a legal goal. Now, when I did that family court case and I did the GSA bonds after the case was over, I called the 5th court appointed attorney because I went through 5 of them. And I called him and I recorded the phone call and I said, what'd you think about that stuff I did? And he said, I can't talk to you about that because of attorney-client privilege. And everybody I played that phone recording for, they said, wait a minute, wasn't that your attorney? I said, no, it wasn't mine. He was representing the estate. His client was the estate, the infant estate name, the trust. And then it clicked. I said, I was playing the part of a dummy. Now, look at number 2, a party who purchases property and holds legal title for another. And look what it says, CF, compared to straw man. You go to straw man. Now, I would not recommend using the word straw man in court, even though it's a legal definition. 3, a third party used in some transactions as a temporary transferee to allow the principal parties to accomplish something that is otherwise impermissible. Now, why would it be impermissible? The courts are running in the municipal bond market. They're monetizing every one of these cases through the court registry investment system. They eventually go to the Treasury, and the Treasury goes to the Federal Reserve and says, hey, you want to buy these securities? We need to print more currency. But so, and what does it do? It compares you and sends you right back to the word dummy. Okay. Now, let's go back to my birth record. You see this? This is the footprint document. Up here, you see it's blurry, but you can see infant. Infant's birth date. But look what it says down here. At the bottom, it says, I certify that during the discharge procedure, I received my baby, examined it, and determined that it was mine. I checked the identiband parts sealed on the baby and on me, and found that they were sealed, that they were identically numbered 4046 and contained the correct identifying information. She received the baby. She didn't receive the infant. The top part was for the infant. Nowhere on the top does it say baby. It's not even a birth certificate. At the top, it says newborn identification. So the infant and the baby are not the same thing. Now let's go back to that document I said I needed. Go state definitions and reporting requirements for live births, fetal deaths, and induced terminations of pregnancy. This is the 1997 revision. And you can see at the top there, it comes right off the CDC website. And it's a hyperlinked document. Best one I like to read, and it's not the only state that says that, is New York State. Live birth is defined as the complete expulsion or extraction from its mother of a product of conception, irrespective of the duration of pregnancy, which after such separation breathes or shows any other evidence of life, such as beating of the heart, there's your baby, pulsation of the umbilical cord, there's the placenta, or definite movement of the voluntary muscles, that's both. Whether or not the umbilical cord has been cut or the placenta is attached, each product of such a birth is considered live born. And it even tells you Article 41, Title 3, Section 4130. Both products of conception have to be recorded. But guess what happened? The hospital recorded the infant, aka the placenta. They make you fill that paperwork out because why? They get paid for that. So the infant is what they record. You've already given an assignment over the property, but the Northwest Ordinance, or the Ordinance of 1787, forbids the ownership of people. So the baby goes home with the mother. The baby should have been recorded by the mother and father, but guess what we never did? We never recorded our baby. Okay? Now, for those on here that are familiar with Minnesota Rule 220, which does not apply outside of Minnesota, the principle does. Minnesota Rule 220 is dealing with birth certificates. Okay? Now, I want you to put it in context with what I've shown you so far. If both have to be registered, the state registers the infant. Okay? The mother and father are supposed to record the baby. The registrar of titles is authorized to receive for registration of memorials upon any outstanding certificate of title and official birth certificate pertaining to a registered owner named in said certificate of title, showing the date of birth of said registered owner, providing there is attached to the said birth certificate an affidavit of the affiant who states that he or she is familiar with the facts recited, stating that the party named in said birth certificate is the same party as one of the owners named in said certificate of title, and that thereafter the registrar of title shall treat said registered owner as having attained the age of majority at a date of 18 years after the date of birth shown on said certificate. So the mother and father are supposed to record their own birth record, attach an affidavit to it, stating the facts of the birth, because who has firsthand knowledge? The mother, mama's baby, daddy's maybe. The mother has firsthand knowledge, and if the father's there, he does too. The hospital doesn't. Everything they did on their record is all hearsay. Now, show you where, nice little court. states this. Why is it not loading state B gray? Well, let's do it this way. State B gray. iCloud Drive. Now I got a hiccup because it doesn't want to load. There we go. Finally. Let's see here. Right here. Is that it? Let's see. Regarding the so-called certificate of birth, it is obvious that, again, due to defendant's own testimony, the ground stated by defendant at this trial for his objection is feckless. He testified that his mother was named Bertie Williams, stated in Exhibit 13. Let's see, it would have been, however, a proper ground of objection that the state's exhibit number 13 is not really a certified copy of any official record. So as to the admissibility under General Statutes 130-66, 834, 835, the exhibit, while labeled a certified certificate of birth, purports to be an original document which, over the signature of a deputy registrar, merely summarizes certain information which is apparently recorded in the the Office of Vital Statistics in Mecklenburg County on birth certificate number 868. Thus, state's exhibit number 13 is no more than the deputy registrar's assertion of what she found on the recorded birth certificate. As such, it was double hearsay and inadmissible. In other words, the certificate of live birth is double hearsay because the registrar don't have firsthand knowledge, and it is not the record. It is only proof that a record exists. Okay? So everybody's running around saying, oh, that is me. That is me. No, there's no proof that is you. It is only proof that a record exists. The vital statistics actually don't record babies. You can call them and ask them. They record events, okay? They do not record babies. And you don't even own the record. They do. Now, being the infant was a ward of the state, aka a bastard child, guess what? There is actually a probate file that gets created. Let's see if I can find that video because I got it on my phone. And I played this phone recording for people. And then they're like, holy crap, they admitted that? Yep, they sure did. Let's see. Here it is. Okay, that's the right one. So now I'm going to play this video. These are 3 conversations I had with vital records. Let me know to make sure y'all can hear it.
For quality assurance, your call may be monitored or recorded. We are open to the public by appointment only from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, except for state holidays. To make an appointment, please visit us at https://vitalrecords.nc.gov.
Good morning. I don't know who I need to talk to. I might need a supervisor, but I don't know. I'm trying to see what I need to do to get some information about my birth record.
What do you mean, information about your birth record?
Well, I have a copy of the birth certificate, the certificate of live birth, but I need to know what the other dates are on it. Like, I know that the supposed, now let me see here. Let me see if I can, I'll pull it up. There's also a file date and another date on it.
So where did you get that certificate from?
From y'all. From y'all.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you get that from here?
Give me a second. I'm trying to pull it up now.
Okay, sure.
Let's see. First. There it is. So I got this. This was issued on 3/22/2011.
Okay, your name is? You said, okay, what is your name? You said.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my family name is.
Okay, and what are your questions in reference to that?
I have a couple of questions, and I know it's different in different states. Okay. It says the birth date is, and it says date record. The next date on it is the. In some states they have something called the Book of Life, and there is a date in that book. I'm trying to see what that date may be.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a couple other questions about other information that's on this certificate. Okay, the other date on the certificate is, I'm wondering what that date is. And then in some jurisdictions, and it may be the same in North Carolina, there's another date where it is entered into the Book of Life, and I'm wondering what that date is.
And which places are you talking about have a Book of Life?
It's different states.
Which states are you speaking of specifically? If you can give me.
Alabama has one.
Okay. Because
I mean,
every state is different. Some places have them and some places do not.
What does North Carolina have?
We have the birth certificate for you. So we issue out to you.
Okay. Now, what are the different dates where everything is filed? Okay.
That's the date that it is filed.
Okay. So, what date is the file date?
It's the date that's on on your birth certificate. It had date record was filed, which is the date that it was filed.
Can you tell me what that date is?
Well, what date is on the birth certificate that you have?
it says there is a birth date of
Correct. Mm-hmm.
that is not the file date.
Correct. But the
File
file
date. What is the file date?
But if you're reading from that birth certificate that was issued from here, that file date is on there.
You talking about the 3/22/2011?
No, that's not the file date, because that's not the date. That's not the year you were born.
Yeah.
It was the other date. You said another date that was on
August.
there. Okay, well that's your file date.
Okay. What are there any other dates in August where that is pertaining to this? That's what I'm asking for.
Pertaining to your birth?
Yes.
It is not.
When was the now let me ask you this question. The date, under the date issued, it gives a number. It says, what is that number?
Now, on your birth record?
Yeah, on the certificate of live birth, there is an identifying number of.
That's just the number that we assign to the certificates that are printed.
Okay, what's the purpose of that number?
That's for us here, just in case we need to look up something here. That's for us.
Well, I understand that, but what is the purpose of it? What is it called?
That's just to identify a number of your certificate that we use here. Now, the customers are not to know all the inside information that goes on here. It's just things for us here. As far as your birth record, we don't go into detail because our information here is not public record, so we don't go into a lot of detail when it comes to that.
The serial number on it. How is that serial number assigned, and what is it for?
It's just like
it's a red number.
Just for instance, if you were writing someone a receipt, they always have numbers already on that receipt that you're issuing to that individual.
Now, can you tell me when the probate file was recorded?
No, sir.
But there is a probate file.
So if you want to do, we as I said, we don't get into a lot of information because it's not public. A lot of this is not public record, not for the customers.
Okay.
There's certain things we can,
So can I speak to a manager that can assist me, or someone?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that they'll tell you the verb, but I'll let you speak to someone. I
greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. And you are whom? Okay. Now what is your? Do you have a title or anything, or you just calling about your birth record in particular?
My birth record in particular.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna pause it for a minute. Y'all heard them. A probate file is created. Because why? The infant was abandoned. Now they didn't specifically say that because they won't talk about it. So now the reason I was trying to lead her into disclosing what these dates and numbers are because I was trying to get an adequate response. And I didn't get all the responses I wanted, but that was the first phone call I made. Okay. Now we're going to go into the second phone call.
So I have a couple of questions, and one of them is because of the conversation I had yesterday with Vital Statistics or Vital Records in Raleigh. But the first question is because of the conversation in Guilford County when I went to record some papers. Okay. I got certified copies of my birth record, and then I made copies of that. Okay. And when I went to record my file at the Register of Deeds office in Guilford County, the lady made the statement that we can't record other counties' property. And my question is what did that actually mean? Because this is my birth record. right?
Mhm. Well, any document, any birth record, marriage record, death record, or even like real estate property, it has to be recorded where the event or occurred or where the property is located.
Hmm.
Yeah, so like if you were born in Forsyth County, your record your birth certificate, it always stays where you were born.
Well, yeah, okay. But wouldn't it still be my property and not Forsyth County's?
Not with a birth record, no.
No,
Not with
no,
the
no,
birth, death, or marriage record, no.
no, no. So help me understand what what that means, because to me, when it says it's Forsyth County's property, that denotes ownership.
Well, it's Forsyth County property because that's where the event occurred.
Hmm. Okay, so that means it is Forsyth County's. They own it,
I mean,
basically.
it's your birth record because your name is on it, yes. But as
Okay.
far as like recording it and being able to locate it and things of that nature, it will always be where the event occurred.
Yeah. Okay. So who owns the record then?
The state of North Carolina or whatever state that you were born.
So the state of North Carolina owns the record. Okay.
Mhm.
That 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 explains a little bit. Now, why am I not able to get copies of the microfiche of what was originally filed and all the paperwork?
I don't know because I don't know if that would be public record or not.
Well, it was
Have
my
you?
birth
Okay,
record.
so because and the reason why I'm saying that is because the only thing, so okay, so that will be when it was filed. You mean like the medical records and everything that pertains to the birth certificate? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, everything.
Okay.
Yes.
Now that I don't know because the only, like for instance, like when a person is born, even like when you were born, the only thing that we get from our office is the actual birth certificate. We don't get any medical records or anything like that. So I
Well,
don't know if you would have to contact the hospital where you were born if they. I don't know.
no, not really the medical records. It was what was sent to me was a green piece of paper. It wasn't
Mhm.
the actual copy of the original filing, the microfiche.
Okay.
Because I was born in '73, so I know it's been digitized.
Mhm.
So
And see, in Raleigh, that's the information that they would have.
they would have that. So what
Yes.
happens is y'all just put it in the system,
Yeah.
and
What we get is a copy. Yeah.
the digitized copy and everything goes to Raleigh.
And like book copy and things of that nature. Exactly. You're exactly right.
Okay. Then I will have to have further conversations with them to see about getting that copies of the original documents.
Yeah, maybe you say you're waiting on a call from the supervisor. Is that what you said from Raleigh?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So maybe that person can help you because it's definitely going to be on that level, the state level, and not the county level.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.
It's no problem. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay,
Go ahead,
did
man.
these stem from the hospital?
Repeat that question.
Did the errors stem from the hospital?
Probably, yes.
Okay, so it was like a hospital error in a name spelling, date, or something, right?
Yes.
And they're saying they don't have no records of this information
I don't know who to contact at the hospital.
Okay, it would be like medical records. Try there.
Medical records.
Uh-huh.
So the abstract is actually kept at the hospital forever.
Supposedly.
Supposedly,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, okay. Once the hospital creates the record, they're supposed to keep information on hand. For how long, I do not know, but since it's not just a recent birth or it could go, that information could go in the person's chart, and it would go to medical records.
Now, according to Forsyth County, the lady I spoke to at Vital Records in Forsyth County, she told me the process was the hospital transfers the file to Forsyth County.
For the county,
Forsyth County
the county releases
puts all the information in,
and then releases it to us.
And then releases the entire file to y'all. So wouldn't you have the abstract and everything too?
Not necessarily.
Any way you can find out?
Well, no, because she's not here, remember?
Okay.
So, I work in birth registration. The information that we receive from the hospital is an affidavit of parentage.
Affidavit of parentage. Would you have that on file for my file? I can give you my certificate number that I have in my possession.
Okay, that would be a customer service call to help you try to find that information, like an amendment.
Affidavit of parentage. Okay.
It's called an AOP.
AOP.
That would be like the amendment department to help you with that.
Is there someone there available for me to talk to?
I can transfer you.
I greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Please hold. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's the end of that call. So, if you learn how to ask the right questions the right way, you'll get the right answers. Okay. Now, let's go back. The infant was abandoned. The baby was took home but never recorded. The infant became the ward of the state, which means it's their property. Okay. Now, some of y'all, I don't presume to know what y'all know and don't know. Okay. But y'all have probably heard the term secured party creditor. Well, I studied secured party creditor for 3 years before I actually did it. Now, the proper term would be secured party / creditor, because if you're the creditor, you're the secured party. Now, the state becomes the grantor of the trust, okay? Because why? It's their property. And people are out there saying that, oh, the mother was the grantor because she gave the name. No, she gave the name as the custodian, not as the mother for her offspring. So the state takes the infant, the birth record, creates a trust, okay? Now, and you have all the evidence in your pocket. If you take a magnifying glass, if you have a personal checking account, and you take a magnifying glass to the signature line, it calls you the authorized representative. Well, what are you the authorized representative of? The trust. You're not the grantor. You're not the trustees. Now, right here on the Social Security website, they tell you who the trustees are. Board of Trustees currently consists of 6 members, 4 of whom automatically serve by virtue of their position in the federal government. These 4 are the Secretary of Treasury, the managing trustee. That's the first trustee. Why? They're the bank. The Secretary of Labor. Now, why is that? When you went and filled out a W-4 and you put the name, you put the social, and you put the address, what did you actually put on that piece of paper? Who's the employee? Yes, people say you checked off U.S. citizen. Yeah, the trust is a U.S. citizen. Under the 14th Amendment, all corporations, all businesses, and all trusts are legal persons and have equal protection under the 14th Amendment. So the Secretary of Labor has to keep up with what the trust is doing. The office for the agent is the address you put on the document for service of process. Secretary of Health and Human Services. Why are they the third trustee? Some of y'all have probably heard the term Title IV funding. That's CPS, child support, alimony, family court, all that stuff, how they take everybody's kids because they own them, right? Commissioner of Social Security. Now, that's because Social Security Administration. The last two, I don't even worry about them because they're part of the Social Security Administration. Now, let's see here. If anyone goes and looks at their Social Security card, okay, and you look on the back of the card, there is a little phrase on it. I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna share it here in just a second, because I want you to see what it says. Oh, wait a minute. I know a better way to find it. Here we go. I got too many pictures on my phone. Oh, where's Sean? There he is. Look right here. Top sentence. This card belongs to the Social Security Administration and you must return it if we ask for it. So that means this card is theirs. That phrase, this card, means everything on it. Well, that's my name. No, it's the name of the trust. I just showed you who the trustees are. Everybody goes around and says, I'm the beneficiary. Where's your evidence? He who makes the claim has the burden of proof. Have you ever actually wrote a letter to the Social Security Administration, asked a simple question? Am I the beneficiary of this account? And lists the account. What are they going to say? They might say yes, they might say no, but you don't know if you don't ask. Now, here's a perfect example of asking, okay? Let's divert just for a second. Everybody out there teaching that you're the U.S. citizen because you are receiving privileges and benefits from the United States under the Social Security Trust. Okay. Almost everybody that does this gets the same response I got. I did a FOIA request with the Social Security Administration, not Social Security. I did a FOIA request with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And I asked them one simple question: for any documentation showing that I am a U.S. citizen. What does it say right there in the second paragraph? We have completed a search of our person-centric query service and our person-centric identity service. No records responsive to your request were located. So how can I be something I never applied for? How can you be a U.S. citizen? See, the American people have forgotten how this country was founded and what the states are, okay? The states are 50 sovereign nations, okay? They created a union called the United States. Now, the states are a foreign jurisdiction to each other, and the United States is a foreign jurisdiction to the 50 states, okay? So it's my opinion, you're actually already a state citizen. Stop, lay down. You're not a U.S. citizen. You're making a presumption. You talk about the courts make a presumption all the time. Well, we're guilty of doing the same thing. We don't analyze everything in the mindset of firsthand knowledge. He who makes the claim, go back to that, has the burden of proof. If you don't learn how to respond properly, they're going to trap you into agreeing to their contracts. So now let's go to agency. Okay. I've already shown you the infant can be an agent. Okay. Let's see here. Actually, now, an express or implied agency. Let's see. Look at paragraph 2. An express agency is an actual agency created as a result of the oral or written agreement of the parties. An implied agency is also an actual agency, the existence of which as a fact is proved by deductions and inferences from the other facts and circumstances of the particular case, including the words and conduct of the parties. Okay. So what are you doing? You've got a Social Security card. You don't own it. You have a certificate of live birth. You don't own it. It's not your property. It's someone else's. They just gave it to you to use, but you're not using it correctly. Okay. So since you're the agent, and when it says proved by deductions or inferences, 1, it's their property. 2, go get your personal checks. It says authorized representatives. What's another term for an authorized representative? Agent. The trustees are the principal. The state is the principal. It's their person. Okay. Let's see. So you go back to so that's all this started in 1933. Okay. Right here. This is the congressional record of March 9th, 1933. If you look midway in the sentence on the right, you see where it says under the new law. Right there. Under the new law, the money is issued to the banks in return for government obligations, bills of exchange, drafts, notes, trade acceptances, and bankers' acceptances. The money will be worth 100 cents on the dollar because it is backed by the credit of the nation. That goes to the good faith and credit clause. Now, what is the good faith and credit clause? It is backed by the people of the nation. And then it says it will represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of all the people of the nation. So the United States mortgaged everything in return for government obligations. So when you start talking about debt discharge, people are not doing things right. The corporations is not who you go to. It's not their obligation. It's the United States obligations. Okay. So let's see. 18 USC 8. Obligation or other security of the United States defined. The term Obligation or other security of the United States includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank currency, Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserve bank notes, coupons, United States notes, Treasury notes, gold certificates, silver certificates, fractional reserve notes, certificates of deposit. You go down to your bank and say, I want to get a CD and I want it to have a 15-month maturity date. That's an obligation of the United States. Bills. Well, what's a bill? Checks. You write checks or drafts for money drawn by or upon the authorized officers of the United States, stamps, or other representative of value, or whatever denomination issued under any act of Congress and canceled United States stamps. Now, my recent DOT ticket, and Felicia can verify this. She's heard the phone recording when I got that DOT ticket for the reverse light on my tractor being out. I got it February 21st. The court date was supposedly March 28th. Well, March 16th, I called the clerk of court and I said, I need to speak to the court clerk. And she said, well, there's 3 of us here. And I said, well, ma'am, I need to speak to the one that manages the courthouse to make everything run smoothly. Oh, well, that will be me. I said, now, in this whole conversation, I never once called it a ticket. Words matter. I said, I need to verify your EIN for tax reporting purposes because I have a debt instrument here in my possession. And I read the EIN and she says, well, I can't verify that's what it is. You might need to talk to Barbara down at the town hall. And I said, well, I'll get her number here in a moment. And I said, the next question I have is, what is the penal sum for this instrument? And she says, well, I don't know what that is or how to get it. And she said, and I said, well, and I give her the instrument number. And she says, well, are you giving me a ticket number? I said, ma'am, if you believe that's what it is, that's on you. I said, the way I see it, this is an instrument of value. What does it say next to the bottom? Other representative of value. And I said, or a debt instrument, which makes it an obligation of the United States under Title 18 USC 8. And then she asked me, was I the name? And I said, ma'am, that name is owned by the United States and they're the secured party in this matter. Now, to be honest, in the phone call, I slipped. At this point, I said, I am the beneficiary, and I slipped. I meant to say registered agent because what I said after that was it is my duty to inform the principal of anything that affects its interest. That's the duty of the registered agent, not the beneficiary. So I slipped on the phone call. And she says, can you hold a moment? And she comes back a minute or two later and says, well, that matter's been sealed and dismissed. I said, okay, can you send that signed order to the address you have on file? She says, well, I can't just send that to anyone. You have to verify who you are. I said, okay, you'll have a letter in the mail next week. And she got my letter on the 24th and it was way upstate New York, like 2 hours from the Canadian border, if that far. And all the way down south to my house, she got my letter saying that rehashed the phone call, laid out the facts that we discussed. And I said, the court has 10 days to produce signed order. She must have got my letter that day and said, oh, crap. Why? Because she printed the order that day. And she was either at the post office that day or the next morning. That 24th was a Thursday. Over the weekend, it was sitting at my house Monday morning. And it says on it, it was sealed and dismissed. See, they can't use you for liability when you start realizing who you are in relation to that name. Okay. And I'm going to just use the name John Smith. I don't know his private name, don't care. Felicia knows who I'm talking about. He actually got on the Fearless Floyd show one night when I was talking about this stuff. And then we talked privately. He said, you're right on everything you said. And during our conversation, I said, well, I don't have a problem being a registered agent. And what he told me was this, and it makes sense. He said, you're not meant to be the registered agent for the rest of your life. It is a stepping stone until you learn how to handle your commercial affairs. Well, that makes sense because that's the name of the game. Learning how to handle your commercial affairs. Okay. Now, I got a buddy of mine, Myron Rice, up in Detroit. He told me that, yeah, he wrote a cover letter and every single coupon on the bottom of the bill he would send to the Treasury. And I said, really? Are you telling me they paid the bills? He said, every time. And I said, they were never late? He said, nope, it's hearsay. I will not deny that. It's his word. Okay, so I can't claim firsthand knowledge. What I can do is show you what an example of what he said. Okay, and what I mean by that is he showed me the codes in Michigan where it talked about what the registered agent is supposed to do. And he showed me the codes that showed that they don't have liability. And he wrote his cover letter accordingly and signed it as the authorized representative / registered agent. Now, let's see here. Look at that last paragraph. Nothing in this section affects the right to serve any process, notice, or demand. There's three: process, notice, or demand, required or permitted by law to be served upon an entity in any other manner now or hereafter permitted by law. Okay. Service of process, paragraph A. Service of process, notice or demand required or permitted by law to be served on any entity may be served on the registered agent by GS 55D-30. When you get a bill in the mail, what are they giving you? They're giving you a notice and a demand. The statement is the notice, the coupon is a demand for payment. Okay. Now look at paragraph B. The sole duty of the registered agent to the entity is to forward to the entity at its last known address any notice, process, or demand that is served on the registered agent. That's your fiduciary duty. When you get drug into court and they call the name John Henry Doe and you say, here, you're pleading guilty to the one thing you have no knowledge of, and that's the name. Okay, you're accepting the liability, playing the role of trustee. Well, you're not the trustee, right? Now, so you got some people out there in the movement saying, well, they are making you the trustee. No, they're not. This is what they're charging you under. It's called trustee de son tort. Trustee de son tort, someone who, without legal authority, administers a living person's property to the detriment of the property owner. Who's the property owner? The state. Now, in KW's video, if you just search Ken W. Birth certificate and agency, he reads the part of the court ruling that he got. where the state of Kentucky admitted his relation. It was a state agency and he was the agent. But one of the things he said is when they do service of process, for it to be correct, there has to be a letter on file at the Secretary of State's office that you've accepted the office. If there's no letter there, service of process is deficient. So here's the problem. We are not notifying the government who we are. We're trying to get into the private, and we're also trying to do things in the public the right way, but we're not doing things quite the right way. I did the secured party creditor process. Did I see anything? Not really. It's interesting. It taught me about trust law. And guess what? Trust law applies to the Social Security trust. It's still a trust. We didn't pay attention to the biggest trust of all that's right in front of our face. So how do you notify the government who you are and what you're doing? You've probably heard people say, do a DBA. You're doing business as. Well, you can't do a DBA if you don't have the proper authority to do so. Okay. Now, let's see here. Now this is right here. Cancel. Let me show you how easy it is to write an acceptance of office. I acknowledge and accept the appointment of registered agent for and on behalf of name of entity, name of company, date of execution, name of registered agent. It's that simple. I've got the most flack from people over this information, over the name and the office, than I've ever got about anything out there, because they can't seem to see that the mother was not the grantor and that the infant is not them. Let's see here. There is 56 participants. I am going to, somebody raise their hand. Just one person volunteer. Other than Shane, okay, Georgia.
Hey.
Okay, Georgia, I'm going to ask to unmute. Georgia, can you unmute?
Yes, I'm here.
Let me explain something. Now, if I sit down today and I write a trust and I lay out all the information in the trust and I appoint trustees and I appoint the beneficiaries and I give you this certificate, is that, if I name it Georgia, is it you?
Well, I don't think so.
Why do we treat the Social Security trust like it's us?
Good question.
Now, the reason I picked somebody random is, one, y'all can't say that Felicia and Shane are playing the part, so to speak. Because when I explain it to people that way, the average person gets it. Okay? Now, check this out. SS 5FS form. This is the PDF for Social Security card application. Look down here. See box 1? That's your 3 lines under the name box. So here's my speculation, because I don't know what each mother and father did when they filled it out. They probably did what my common sense to the unlearned would do. Name to be shown on card. First middle, last. Full name at birth if other than above. They probably left that blank. So you put first, middle, last on name to be shown on card. It's not you. See what I'm saying? Now, SSA, legal name. What is the legal name? For SSA enumeration purposes, a legal name consists of a first name and a last name. The legal name is a name used to sign legal documents, deeds, and contracts. Middle name. We do not consider the middle name or suffix part of the legal name. Whether the middle name or suffix is included, omitted, or incorrectly shown on evidentiary documents submitted with an SS5 application does not matter. Paragraph 2, translate given names and family names shown on documents submitted as SSN evidence to the first and last name on the SSN application. So given names, first is the full first name and middle name together. You've seen people out there write John Henry. Well, I'll tell you now, they don't recognize the dash, but you put John Henry in the first name slot. Family name, full last name, surname, or family name, which may have more than one part. You put the family name in the last name slot. You leave the middle name blank. Okay. So see, we're not filling out documents right because why? Well, honestly, when we got out of school, we didn't know to go read. We didn't even give it a thought. I tell people, look, the reason it's not the government's fault, people call what they're doing fraud. It's not fraud. They publish everything. We are just not reading. If you want to hide the truth, put it in a book. That's why I always go to their source information. That's why I always tell people, you can find it here. Then you can go read it. You can come to your conclusion and see if I'm right. And if you think I'm wrong about something, come back with the documents and say, hey, I think you're wrong. You might have missed this part. Or did you see this? I'm all for that. Because my purpose, I want you to stand on your own. I don't want you to have to need me forever. I've been at this for 10 years. I have followed some of the biggest names out there, and some of them talk to me regularly, like Eon. Me and Eon talk. KW, I got his phone number. We talk on occasion. Some people like Pop out in California. I don't know his birth name. That's his private information. Popeye went into court on a marijuana charge and argued the same thing. Back before it was made legal, he sat there and, Your Honor, he said, I'm here to handle that matter for that estate. And what did they say? He said, well, what's your name? He said, you can call me Peaceful Inhabitant. Well, Mr. Peaceful Inhabitant, no, he said, well, if you're not him, I'm going to issue a warrant for his arrest for failure to appear. He says, Your Honor, I told you I'm here to settle that matter for that estate. Are you trying to force me to use that name when it's the United States property and commit fraud upon this court? I know the court's not trying to have me commit a crime in open court, because it's my belief I don't have the proper authority to use that name. And when he's saying all this, he hands the social to the bailiff, who hands it to the judge. It's right on the back of the card. It's theirs. And he says, well, he said, well, Mr. Peaceful Inhabitant, he said, hold up, Your Honor. Where did that term Mr. come from? I didn't say that. He made the judge call him Peaceful Inhabitant. And the judge ended up getting rid of the case. Nashawn Garrett, buddy of mine on TikTok, took my information, he got a ticket the other night for driving with a private plate, went to jail, posted bond, called me. What do? I reminded him of all of this. He goes to court yesterday for his arraignment. And he goes up in front of the judge, does his spiel on the estate. The judge sticks to his guns. If you're not Nashawn Garrett, I am sending a warrant for his arrest. He comes out after he did that back and forth with him 3 times. He comes back to me and says, what do I do? I said, take your butt back inside and appeal the record, appeal the case. He goes inside, the county cop is there and says, brings the warrant, is this you? He says, I've already told you I'm the registered agent for that estate and I'm here to settle this matter. And the cop freaking raises his voice at him and gets belligerent and he leaves. Comes back with the bond paperwork from the night before. Is this your signature? And he says, I don't feel comfortable asking your questions. I've already told you, blah, 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 blah. And Nashawn walks right out of court. They couldn't even put handcuffs on him. Why? He couldn't agree to be the name. Once we start realizing who we are in this grand chessboard, see, it's a symbiotic relationship between us and the government. Me, as a Christian believer, God gave us this country. It is a symbiotic relationship between us and the government. The government is supposed to be our servants, but we are afraid to treat them as servants and say, hey, Mr. Servant, I have a question. Well, they don't answer. Well, you probably asked the wrong person and they don't have to answer. You've got the Congressional Research Service. You can ask them about any law. They will give you they'll give you the answers. You've got your legislative library in your state. Ask them questions. They will give you answers. Okay? Don't hesitate. Write the IRS. Ask them questions. Now, me personally, when it comes to the IRS, any of these processes should never go to the IRS. That's just my opinion. That's where I do agree with Felicia. They should go to the Treasury. Why? It's their person. They just gave it to you to use because when the United States went bankrupt, the government, in short, said, hey, people of the nation, let us use your property and we will give you equal exchange. We will give you a vehicle for commerce that as long as you use it right and know who you are, you won't hold liability and we will be able to settle our debt. The problem is we got 30 trillion in debt and the people are not doing things right, but they're too busy blaming the government for the spending when it's really our fault. Now, Felicia, is there anything you think of I might have missed?
No, I think that was that's a good start for a lot of people that haven't heard it. And I can add that today I took my daughter who got a speeding ticket to court because I followed exactly what Pastor said about, using those terms. And I helped her write a letter and we called the court and we tried to get it dismissed over the phone, but we couldn't get the right person on the phone. And so then they sent me to the treasurer of the court because we use the word, penal sum. We're looking to pay these taxes. So they sent us to the treasurer. Well, the lady had no idea, but it was Commonwealth of Kentucky. So they were so sweet. Everybody on the phone I talked to was so nice, overly nice, asking, I just don't know what this is. I'd never heard of that before, So she said, if you would just write that down, I'll walk it down to the attorney's office and see if he knows what you're talking about. So we show up at court today because I didn't hear back from her. We kind of waited too late. And we walked in and they didn't even have us on the docket, have her name on the docket. So we had to wait through all the other cases. And then she went up to the attorney and said, hey, they didn't call my name. And I'm here and I have already sent these paperwork. Well, I knew exactly that he was looking for us in the court before she even approached him. he was looking to see who's the competent person in here that wrote that letter, because his face was so mad when she came up. And then when the judge called her name, she walked up and he didn't even give her time to talk. He didn't give the judge time to ask for her name or for her to state the name and the birth date for the court. Nothing. He just was like, oh, judge, she sent this paperwork in, and it has nothing to do with the treasury, and I don't know what this is. I mean, come on. He was so frustrated. His face, he was making all kinds of faces. He was looking at me, he's looking at the judge, he's looking at her. And I was so proud of her that she did not, back down. But, she knew. I gave her so many scenarios on the way trying to coach her. And so she just said, Judge, can I just have a trial? And the judge was like, oh yeah, sure, honey. Of course. Yeah, you just had to ask. Sure. So I told Pastor, right, if you all were on the call right before we started, I was mentioning that. So, I mean, she used all those terms that he said. I'm the authorized, and I'm authorized representative. I'm the registered agent of this name. And yeah, they definitely, the attorney was very upset with it. And I'll tell you that.
Now, the reason why the DA was so upset is because why? You're interfering with his ability to make money. But the judge knew, my presumption, I'm not a mind reader. When you don't expose this stuff in the public per se, right? The judge is up there all nice and friendly. She knew exactly what was going on. Oh yeah, all you had to do was ask. We don't care about your name and your birth date. But everybody else that's stepping on the trustee's toes, guess what? I need to know your name and birth date. And the judge will give them a hard time. But when y'all did that, what did the judge do? Just sweet and nice. And
she didn't even ask. She didn't even ask my daughter to state her name or birth date for the record. So I was really confused, because she was prepared to say, my name's, I only go by this, and I only use this name in private or public, but she didn't even have to.
Yeah, John, he told me the story one time where he went into court and did that. Judge asked him his name, and John, nothing more, nothing less, just John. And the judge ended up looking at the DA and said, don't you ever bring somebody in here without a last name again. And the DA said that, well, how do I get his last name? The judge said, I don't know. That's between you and him. Are you there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm going to let people ask questions for a minute. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I'm going to start. I'm going to start with, so now all that you've presented and all that you've learned, what would you recommend the path to going about doing your business in the private and public? Would you, like you said, the DBA, that's a step beyond. You have to do other things first. What do you think? Do we have to correct the record first and create a birth record?
I do believe you should create a birth record, because if both products of conception are to be recorded, what didn't happen?
There's no recording of the baby.
Correct. Now, if there's no recording of the baby, you got to also correct correct the birth date on the certificate of live birth. Now, let me do this. Screen. Start. Let's see. Bank. We're up seeing revised Article 9. Now, this is a great video.
502B is full.
These are classes judges have to take, okay, to learn everything. The Federal Judicial Center, you can go find them and see videos posted. But let's go. This is Ms. LaRouche. These are law professors and judges.
Filings will be.
Right, and the question is when it will be when? Right. When you file it or when you litigate it? Right. Which they can change.
And there's this wonderful thing in that statutory sentence about search logic. It says, if any, which seems to imply that there are going to be some filing officers that don't have any search logic.
Well, and there may be. Right. There may be a few as we speak.
So it raises the stakes, and getting the correct legal name of a registered organization, which is another new term, which means a registered organization is an organization where the state maintains a public record of the organization's name, or must maintain a public record of the organization's name. Showing that it existed.
I've heard it sometimes referred to as the state issues a birth certificate.
Right.
That's a little, but that's actually a little.
You hear what he said? He's heard it said that it's sometimes said that the state issues a birth certificate. Who gets birth certificates? People do. Cars don't. Cars get a manufacturer certificate of origin or a manufacturer statement of origin. But people get birth certificates. It's their property. It's a state agency. They give you the certificate of live birth for you to operate in public. The problem is we're not operating correctly.
So we have some questions in the chat. So someone was just making a statement. It's the parent's job to record a record for the baby, correct? And then the hospital just does the infant record?
That's right.
And what if we file to get out, I guess, Minnesota DBA to take back as guardian custody of our all caps names?
That's a process way down the road. Okay. There are people out there that have gotten control of that estate and received a payout. But until you get to the point where you have proven competency, they're never going to release that to you. Plus, I don't know that I want that responsibility, because why? According to John, you know who I'm talking about, Felicia. He said he personally knows 7 people that did get a payout. And when you get to this point, you're signing non-disclosures. You are not going to find these people on social media talking about this stuff. You're not. But one of the ladies that got a payout, she decided to throw a party, and she got drunk. And people asked, how did you come into all this money? She started talking. And then they found her in a freezer. Because why? She didn't keep her word. That's dishonorable. And they do not want everybody and their brother out there knowing this information, because why? I'll be honest. I've got a son, my oldest son, who would abuse it. And the average person out there, no offense to any of you, don't take this the wrong way, but the average person out there is a heathen. If they got access to those accounts in full control, they would sit on their butt in violation of what the Bible says, that you are to earn your living by the sweat of your brow. Okay, in other words, go out there and work. But there is so many people, if they got access to that, they would go buy mansions and cars, and they would not work, and they would watch the country burn. Because the average person is lazy. I was lazy. When I got I realized part of this problem was my fault. Why? When I got out of high school, what did I care about? Chasing women and running around on my first wife. I didn't care about my rights. Yeah, none of us did.
We have another question. When you talked about the acceptance of the registered agent, how simple it was, and you showed that screenshot, do we have to record that acceptance?
You send it to the Secretary of State.
All you do is fill out that exactly as easy as you showed it, and we just send it to the Secretary of State. Do we have to notarize it or anything?
You can. There's nothing that says you can't.
Okay.
I shared with you Brian Parker's resignation of registered agent, didn't I? If I didn't, I will show it. See,
yeah,
there are multiple paths. Okay. There is nothing that says you have to take the exact path I'm saying. Each person is on their own path. Okay. Some people out there did the secured party creditor process like Wesley Keith Mullins, and he is a beast. Okay. He knows what he's doing. Then you've got people like David Roach, who says all of that stuff is crap, and he hasn't done any of it. Okay. He has no license on his car. He has no registration. He has no driver's license. He's been to court 72 times, and he's beat them 70 times. He's got to the point now they don't even mess with him. Because why? He got their respect. Now, some of the stories he's told is he'd go down to the bar and grill, sit down to eat a meal, drink a couple beers and relax, see the cops there that would normally arrest him. Hey, guys, come over here. I'll buy you a beer. And they'd look at him and say, why are you so nice to us? And he said, honestly, you're just doing your job. He said, just because I don't like the way you do your job doesn't mean I'm going to be dishonorable towards you. He said, we are all trying to figure out our place in this grand scheme we call the United States. So it all boils down to, what path do you want to take? Ken W. in that video I was telling you. Let's see here. Share content, share screen. And yes, I talk out loud a lot. I think out loud. Let's go back to YouTube. Right there. That video is one. That one with the little bird, the little cartoon bird. Oh, that ain't gonna work. So let's do this. Library. Here we go. That middle one, the birth certificate and agency with Ken W. That's the video where he reads the court case, explains the agency, and what did he do? He resigned as agent. Okay. Now, he also says in that video, if he had it to do over again, he would not do it the same way. And after I talked to him, he told me, he said, yeah, I'd have never went to probate court and resigned. When you do resign, you are giving up certain privileges and immunities, so to speak, right?
Right. Do you want to give an opinion, or you don't have to, about what you think about David Straight's process to gaining access or following his paperwork?
Now, Yeah, I get to do that in a minute. Look at there. This is Brian Parker. You can find him on Facebook. He runs Tactical Sovereignty. This is what he filed with the Secretary of State in Florida, in Minnesota, and with 3 other agencies. You see that number in the middle where it says 121-038-403? That's the number on the certificate of live birth. Okay. So now there's 4 reasons: lack of contractual disclosure, lack of fiduciary duties performed by the principal, lack of correspondence with the principal, lack of consent by Brian Glenn, heir of Parker. Did he see anything when he did that? Not at first, but he got him a job one day and had to go get his driving record. He goes down to his driving record, get his driver's record. It's 1 page. And he personally told me this on the phone. He said, I can tell you now in the state of Florida, there are certain things, if you ever get it on your driving record, will never come off. I'm making the presumption it was none of my business. I didn't ask. But I know North Carolina has some of the strictest DUI laws. So could he have had a DUI in his youth? Oh, yeah, he could have. And that's just a presumption on my part. Okay, I didn't ask. Like I said, none of my business. So if he can resign from the office, that means you can operate in the office. And if you can operate in the office, you need to know how to operate. And look, I'll show you. This is one of the best places to get information to learn this stuff.
We did that the other day.
Yeah. That's the thing. I actually do not have a problem telling people where I'm getting the information from. I've been at this 10 years. Yes, I am ahead of certain people, but you have the same capabilities I have just to go read. Now, some of these books you can't download. Some of them you can. You see the 3 on the top right? When you see documents that have a white background like that with text messages, chances are most of the time you can download those. When you have the ones that look like a book with a book cover, like this one here, you are going to have to borrow it. I don't know if that's free. Because I don't borrow them. Okay. Now, let's see. This digest of the law of agency, that green one right there, that one there, is that right? Let me see. No. Yep. When you see download options and you see that PDF, you can download that. Now, these laws, these are law books. Okay, you're going to see Cornell Law School Library, Law of Agency. This was in 1896. But here's the thing. The principles of law are few and never changing. Methods are many. What people are talking about out there is, hey, tell me your process. That's a method. If you know the principles, you can develop your own methods. And these books are going to be about, look, I told you about implied authority. I told you that the agency can be implied authority where employed in course of business as agent, implied authority of general agents. Okay. When you go through and you read the text, let's scroll down. Goodness gracious, you got to go so far just to get to chapter 1. When you go through these documents, these are going to be based on principles. An agent is a person having express or implied authority to represent or act on behalf of another person, who is called the principal. A general agent is an agent who has authority to act in all matters or in all matters concerning a particular trade or business or of a particular nature. B, to do some act in ordinary course of his trade, profession, or business as an agent on behalf of his principal. Where a solicitor, factor, or broker is employed, as such, a special agent is an agent who has only authority to do some particular act or represent his principal in some particular transaction. Okay. And they'll give you the sole see articles 35 and 38. They tell you where they're getting this information from. So you have the ability to say, okay, if I'm supposed to operate in this manner, stop listening to people like David Strait and Anna von Reitz. Go to their books and their documents and their sources, and they will tell you everything you need to do. I mean, David Strait and Anna von Reitz, I proposed this the other day to John Eric, who is a high up in Anna von Reitz groups. And I asked him, I said, do you remember all the censorship because of COVID during 2020 on the social media, 2021? He said, yeah. I said, people would post things they knew were patently true and the media, and it would get censored. He said, yeah, right. I said, if Anna von Reitz and David Strait are the biggest names out there, he said, that's true. I said, have you ever given thought that if they're actually telling the truth, why are they not being censored? And he stopped and thought for a minute. And he said, now that you put it in that perspective, that makes sense. Go look at Anna von Reitz's crew when they do videos. People sit and ask questions that they can't even answer. Plus, their process is all wrong anyway because they put their paperwork on their private server. They're not notifying the government. Well, here's the problem. God instituted government to do what? Punish the wicked. That's Romans 13. Now, let's say you don't believe in God. Okay, fine. Throughout nature, there have been tribes, and the strong in that tribe rise to the top and create rules for the benefit of the tribe to keep it safe. That is a government. So if you're not going to do things properly and in order to notify the fiction and do things the right way, you are fighting against God or nature. Either way, you're going to have a bad outcome.
So there's some other questions if you want to pull up the chat and see which ones you want to answer. Some of them you may have already answered. But I did want to address one of them myself because someone was asking, so let's see how they put it. Basically, it was addressing the friend of yours from Michigan who has contacted or has paid his bills straight to the Treasury.
Yeah.
There's no other processes that need to be done besides finding those state codes for your own state and then just making sure that you put a letter together that is a good solid background of service of process and knowing that you're the registered agent and putting those duties of the registered agent in that letter, correct?
Yes, you got to be able to logically express your good faith belief based on the laws. See, if you're operating in good faith, they can't necessarily hold you liable. You might be wrong, and they will tell you where you're wrong, but they can't necessarily hold you liable because you had a good faith belief based on blah, 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 that you're operating right. Okay. Can you prove it in court simply? Yeah. Look at the back of the social. Who owns it? They do. Look at the certificate of birth. It says state of whatever. They own it. Look at your personal checks. It says authorized representative. So you've got this evidence in front of you that the judge cannot dispute. And if the law says that as the registered agent, your sole duty is to do this, and you cite the state code, and you said, and under the state code of whatever, the agent is never liable for the principal, and you send it off, guess what? Now it's up to them to refute what you're saying.
And to add on to that, so there's no other processes that need to be done for clarification, just a letter that, just what you said, stating that. And then if you were to serve that to the trustee and mail that registered mail to the trustee or whatever your state codes say to do, wouldn't that then be evidence once those bills are paid that they are honoring and that those documents you're sending are now fact and truth?
Yeah, because why? If you accept the office with the Secretary of State and you identify the all caps name, the certificate number, and the social on your document, now they know what capacity you are operating in. And if you are the authorized representative and I would even go so far as to say, to tell when you send your letter, please send me a certificate showing that I am the authorized representative. Now you have proof for court. Do you have to authenticate it? The authentication boils down to this. You're authenticating the office. You're not authenticating the document itself. When you read the authentication for the state, what are they actually authenticating? That the government agent had the authority to do what they did. That is, in the registrar, yes, had the official office of the records, blah, blah, blah. They're not authenticating the document, but in the rules of civil procedure in Indiana, we discovered that authentication does make the judge have to take judicial notice that it is a fact. Now, what is the fact? That it is to be treated as if it is the record.
Pastor, let me back up to the other question. So you're saying that we need to send it to the Secretary of State, but not to the Treasury on a federal level?
Not the acceptance of the office. No, the Secretary of State.
I'm backing up this simple of where basically like Myron did. But why are we doing it on the state level and not on the federal level?
Because the Secretary of State is the one that manages all the corporations. Is the certificate of live birth not the state property? You heard the phone call.
No, I'm with you 100%. I just wanted to clarify because I think somebody put that in one of the questions is, but definitely if you're going to send a letter along with your coupons, you're going to want to do that to the Secretary of State, not the Treasury.
Yeah, that's just, no. You're saying you're relating the coupons to the acceptance of the office. Two different things.
Yeah, I follow that. So it was just getting confused with the question. So yeah, you're going to accept the office of the registered agent to your own Secretary of State. But as Pastor showed, the trustee on the Social Security Administration that's listed would be the Treasury, right?
Now, the trustees are the Treasury. The trustees is who gets the government obligations. Now, let's see. Marco, you said you was born abroad, but I created an SSN living as a citizen of Texas. Does it not say on the back of the card it's theirs? Is not the Social Security account a trust account? Yeah, it is. Your you was born abroad. I'm assuming maybe that your family was military. Is that right? Yeah, mother was a U.S. citizen. Well, my wife was born in Germany. Okay, my wife actually was born on a military base, and so she has a consular's birth certificate. Now, we didn't know at the time we did it about the authentication, how it applied to that, but they wouldn't authenticate it. Why? Because it is self-authenticated. But even that document isn't you, the man. It's still a trust. Yeah, she didn't get Social Security until she got legal age to work. Now they're asking about the coupon. Okay, let me show you some stuff.
Pastor, you don't have a Telegram channel of your own yet, do you?
Well, yeah, I do. And really the only
yours.
thing
Okay.
Buzlikos Nomos is my Telegram channel. I don't do a lot of speaking in there because I don't have a lot of people in there. Where I do a lot of my speaking is either on TikTok, on Fearless Floyd's channel, or occasionally in the national US channel. Because see, I will watch what is said a lot of times, and there will be something that this may sound wrong, but it was something that will set me off on a thought process, and I will jump in and start a live. Okay. Now, let's look at here. Coupon. It opened my darn app. I need to go back to the browser. A coupon, an interest or dividend certificate that is attached to another interest instrument, such as a bond. Now, when it said such as a bond, that's just giving you an example. And that may be detached and separately presented for payment of a definite sum at a specified time, also termed interest coupon. Okay. Now, so keep that in mind on other instruments. Nope, that's not it. This one, statement of account. First definition, a report usually periodically, usually monthly, by a bank to a customer providing certain information on the customer's account, including the checks drawn and cleared, deposits made, charges debited, and the account balance, also termed bank statement. Now, number two, a report issued periodically by a creditor to a customer providing certain information on the customer's account, including the amounts billed, credits given, and the balance due. So that another instrument, what it said in a coupon, is a statement of account also. Okay, so they attach the coupon at the bottom. Now, go back to 18 USC 8. What's in the list? It's an obligation of the United States. And go back to congressional record. Under the new law, the money is so issued to the banks in return for government obligations. They tell you everything.
Just got to get your reading done, right? You got to keep reading.
That's right.
Every time
Yes.
Pastor and I get on the phone, he's like, get your Black Laws Dictionary out. I was like, okay, hold on. and it has been so helpful, guys. Everything that he showed me, and you actually see it for yourself. I mean, that's when the truth sets you free, because you have proof. There's evidence. So I really appreciate all of these screenshots and his expensive account here that he has access to, and all these good.
Well, look at that definition. Account. The principal filed an action for account against his agent. That goes back to what I said earlier, trustee de Santor. You're getting in trouble because you're not doing your fiduciary duty. The action of account lies where one has received goods or money for another in a fiduciary capacity to ascertain and recover the balance due. Wait a minute. You are using the trust out there in commerce, but you're not reporting to the United States how much credit is being given to these corporations so they can pay the taxes and the government can settle their debts. There's that fiduciary capacity. It can only be maintained where there is such a relationship between parties as to raise an obligation to account, and where the amount due is uncertain and unliquidated. These words have certain meanings. They don't always mean what you think they mean.
According to what you're teaching, it makes me think that we don't even have to do any 56 and send it to Janet Yellen to the Treasury to have her be assigned the fiduciary, because she's already the trustee. So all these people filing that, is it just a waste of energy and paper?
I did the secured party creditor process, and the Form 56F was part of it. Okay. And that was in 2020, and I didn't know what I know now. Okay. And what I'm telling people now is, if the trust isn't you and it is theirs, and the trustees are the ones that have legal ownership of it, okay, why do you think you have the permission to appoint someone else to a spot when you didn't get the trustees' permission?
Oh, that's a good point.
Now, if you are the beneficiary, you have no decision-making power over the trust. Now, the question is do you have evidence that you are the beneficiary? My dad, he gets benefits. He's on Social Security. He's retired now. Well, halfway retired. Now Dad knows this stuff. Growing up, all his assets was in a family trust, but he never equated the trust in how he knew it to be able to run a business under a trust. Okay. Now, I asked him one day, I said, Dad, you say you're the beneficiary. He said, yeah. I said, have you ever received a K-1 distribution report? He said, no. I said, then why do you presume you're the beneficiary? He knows what a K-1 distribution report is. The K-1 distribution shows how much the distribution was and whether or not the trustees paid the taxes. Because if the trustees didn't pay the taxes, then the beneficiary has to. Now, look at this. Trustee, someone who stands in a fiduciary or confidential relationship to another, especially one who, having legal title to property, holds it in trust for the benefit of another and owes a fiduciary duty to the beneficiary. Generally, a trustee's duties are to convert to cash all debts, securities that are not qualified legal investments, to reinvest the cash in proper securities, to protect and preserve the trust property, and to ensure that it is employed solely for the beneficiary in accordance with the directions contained in the trust instrument. What is the trust instrument? The Social Security Act, the Trading with the Enemy Act. Trading with the Enemy Act created the trusts. Trading with the Enemy Act is a banking act. It's an amendment to the Federal Reserve Act. Okay, so people are out there, they're making claims that they are something they may not be. And the only thing that makes sense is that you are the implied agent because you're using their property and you're not receiving any benefits or a distribution. Now, if you write them a letter, and say, hey, am I the beneficiary of this account? And they send you a letter back that says, yes, you are. Now, that changes the nature of the game. Now you got evidence you can stand on. And it also changes your relation on how you operate, because a beneficiary has the right to make requests or review the books to make sure that the trustees are doing their job and making the trust profitable. Now, for those that don't know what I mean by make requests, let's say I write a trust and I make you the beneficiary, and at some point down the road, you've got a car and that car needs repaired or replaced. What do? You write a letter to the trustees and said, hey, y'all gave me this trust beneficial interest certificate. Y'all stated I was the beneficiary. My car is in bad shape and I need a new one. Can y'all please provide that? Now they go and take it before the trustees and they vote on it and look at the books and say, oh yeah, well, the trustee can afford to repair it. We can't necessarily afford to replace it, or vice versa. And they do, and then they go do that. So if you are the beneficiary of the trust, make requests. Put it in Janet Yellen, all capital letters, comma, trustee. Hey, trustee, I have a request. I don't exactly know how to do this. Can you please send me the proper forms that I need to fill out to do this request? But I am in need as the beneficiary of this. That's why the first thing you got to establish is, what is your relationship?
Do the 58 people on the call realize why I thought this was such an important message? By raise of hands, like how this could go so much easier than all of the coupons and A for Vs and all these things that we've learned, even if those other processes are holding the corporations accountable. This seems like the most simple, simplistic, way that if we all jumped on his Telegram and bombarded his Telegram, that we could form some small groups of different states and have 5 to 10 people working together weekly and all connect back. Maybe we'll figure out something, some way of honoring him and his time, ever so often jumping in and just for donations or something. We'll have to discuss it. But do you see how this could be very helpful if we all work as groups and find these state codes for each of our states?
Yeah. I mean, now somebody asked, what is my opinion on Patrick Devine? I think Patrick Devine has a lot of great information, but you got to remember his process was during that time, and Congress and the states passed new laws and changed rules and moved codes around and this, that, and the other. That's why it's not that learn related to the Bible. If you become a Christian, it is a lifestyle change. You study the Bible all the time to make sure you are in line with God's will. It's the same thing with law. The Bible says the law is a schoolmaster. The Congress puts out a book called the United States Constitution with Analysis and Interpretation. And it's supposed to be our number one most important document out there. But nobody go reads the book. They don't know how it applies to them, if it applies to them, which parts apply to them. Does it all apply to the government? Yes. But they don't know it well enough so they can enforce it. And then they get mad at the government. Well, it violated my rights. Well, you didn't know what they were, so you couldn't defend them anyway. Now, I'm not trying to be mean. I did that 7-year court case. My first court paper looked like a business letter. It didn't look like a court paper. The judge looked at it, read it, issued a ruling and said, I will accept no more pro se filings. I got mad. I screamed the same thing everybody else screamed. It's fraud. He's corrupt, blah, blah, blah. And then I discovered United States versus Doherty, where it says he doesn't have to accept him. And he explained why. And I said, holy crap, I was in the wrong. Now I look back, do I like that judge? No, I don't. Do I respect him because I see things through the eyes of the law and who is who and what my relationship was to that name? Yes, I see things totally different. Now, on your question on the 56F forms, no, you don't have the authority to appoint fiduciaries. You're not the trustees. See, we're out there trying to act like we're the trustees, and we're not. Now, Heather, I will show you the list again. I'll show you the list again. Here's the trustees. SSA. Right there's your the top 4 trustees. Now, what I haven't shown you is look at this. You got the Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of Labor, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Commissioner of Social Security. Now look, it lists who the trustees are for each year, each administration. Now, you go all the way back to the beginning, 1945. There was the original trustees. They didn't add the other offices until later. My presumption is they did it under reorganization because we've been under reorganization since Lincoln. But I don't know yet if that's the case. And I'll show you where I'm getting some of that information from here in a second. So every year, the president appoints trustees. And the top 4 are automatically trustees because of just the fact their office. Now you see those two vacant spots, the public trustees? My opinion, I have no evidence of this yet, but my opinion is that the DA and the judge, and this is all based on my knowledge, and that is it. I have no documented evidence of this yet. Okay. They take up the spot of the public trustees when they do a case. Now, you know why the DA probably got all upset, Felicia? You know why the judge was so nice? All you had to do was ask. Now, does that prove that's what they're fulfilling? I don't know. It's just based on my knowledge. When I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. But if I tell you I've read it and I know it, I'll show you where I get it from, because I want you to read it. Come to your own conclusion, because honestly, you are the one that has to stand on it. And most of the gurus out there are not going to teach you the principles behind the stuff. All they're going to say is, come to my class, pay me $300, pay me this, do my templates. I could write templates all day long for y'all people. I'm not going to do it. Why? If I'm not going to teach you how to defend it, I'm not doing you any service. All I'm doing is setting you up for failure. That's why I said I'm going to show you the principles. I'm going to show you the behind the scenes and how this was set up. That way you can articulate it right. You can gather your evidence, so when you go into court and you make a claim that I am the registered agent, you have the law on your side. And watch the DA run for the freaking hills.
And I can say that because I have spoke to at least 6 people now that have horrendous cases, lost their children taken away. I mean, all kinds of cases after they filed paperwork following the state national stuff, and they did not know what to do and was told that they'd be helped and paid these misinformation agents, and they never got remedy. They're still in trouble. They're still facing court stuff going on.
Now look at this. United States statutes at large. You have heard the phrase public and private does not mix, right? Well, guess what? Now, why they quit putting them on here since 2014 is a good question. We don't know the answer to that. But let's see. Trying to find it. Let's scroll down. Look at that. Public laws, presidential proclamations, private laws. Now look at this. These are regular people. Some of them. 78 Stat 1121, an act for relief of Agram K. Shrinkets. Let's look at that. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of Congress assembled, that for the purpose of Section 2 of the Act entitled, an act to facilitate the entry of alien skilled specialists and certain relatives of the United States citizens and for other purposes, approved October 24th, 1962, 76 Stat 1247, Agram K. Shrinketh shall be held and considered to be an alien eligible for quota immigrant status under the provisions of Section 203A1 of the Immigration and Nationality Act of, on the basis of the petition filed with the Attorney General prior to April 1st, 1962. It was approved January 20th, 1964. They pass private laws dealing with everyday people. Now,
isn't it true there has to be remedy for every law created? There has to be a remedy for
if there is a penalty, there has to be a remedy. Now look, reorganization plans. Not every year do they have them, but they have reorganizations that happen a lot. Reconstruction Finance Corporation. Well, that's interesting. We knew about Reconstruction. I didn't know that there was an actual corporation that was doing it. Okay, now let's see. Even DC has been reorganized a few times. Look at that, 66-824, Government of the District of Columbia. 66-823, the Bureau of Internal Revenue has been reorganized. They reorganized it as in they got rid of certain offices and put new offices in place. They publish everything. The problem is people don't read. You got private laws, you got public laws, okay? You've got concurrent resolutions, you got bills enacted into laws, okay? You've got all this stuff they put out there for people to read, to learn how to play the game.
It is a game, isn't it? And I know for a fact there are a few readers on here because I've seen some of the messages and I know a couple of the people in here, at least one for sure, is a very, very good reader. So I actually was inspired. I talked to Pastor and it was because of the open mic chats that we were having at 2 and 3 in the morning. There's a lady that I mentioned to him that inspired so much when she was talking about small group work. And I was seeing and hearing her vision when she was speaking about it. And so when I started talking to Pastor last week, I was like, wow, we've got to do this. We've got to do what you're, this straight, direct, easy, simple method. We just need to get the groups to get together and find our own state codes and start processing these all of our bills up to the treasury. So if we all go to his Telegram, which I can post or he can post on the chat, or Shane, if you would do that. He put the name, but just put a link to
I know my
Telegram.
wife actually put a link in the chat. It's just, it's like 8 or 10 from the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, post it again if anybody wants to get on there and make sure you click the link, because I know that I have been in multiple chat rooms, and the couple that I go in, I jump in the open mic a couple times to listen to see what's going on and to catch up. And then there's one channel called Sandwich that one of the ladies is running kind of on my behalf, but I give her all the credit because she's the one that took it and flew with it. So that's where I'm going to do a Q&A. I know I'm getting a lot of questions in the chat, but it's too distracting to try to answer those today. I'm going to do that on Thursday. So I want Pastor to give his information. If you want a consultation with him privately or anything like that, I want him to make sure he gets time to do that, and any other thing he wants to say before we end this room in this class.
I have a philosophy when it comes to money. If you donate for my time, money is congealed life. You work for it by the sweat of your brow. If you give me part of your life, you're going to get part of mine, which is time. Guaranteed. I mean, but just understand that I am only one man. I can't do but so much. And my wife will understand. She'll tell you, people that donate get priority, and I don't ask for any certain amount unless you get into where you need my consulting services. Then I'm looking at an hourly rate, because I have to park my truck to look at documents. And I'm not out here making a living. But if you want to get advice over the phone, stuff like that, then yeah, donate for my time. I mean, you're going to get documents from my Westlaw account where I'll show you what they say. I always say, go back to what they say. Now, somebody asked the question, back to Patrick Devine. I haven't followed really any of Patrick Devine's stuff. I followed Yusuf Ale and High Frequency Radio, and I followed him for multiple, like over a year before I purchased his webinars. And that was before he started SBC University. And I didn't take what he said as the gospel. I would go behind him to my Westlaw account and I would confirm what he says. And the more I dug into what he was saying, confirming it with what the government says, I was finding out the man knows what he's talking about. Okay. And I've met people over the years that I've come to the point that I endorse. Okay. Do they agree with what I'm saying? Yeah. Eon says I'm right. Eon used to say this same stuff years ago. And me and him share information. Wesley Keith Mullins, when I talked to him, he had never thought of it. And when I broke it down to him, he said, hold up. This makes sense. I'd never thought of that. Okay. But now, Wesley, let's see here. Screen, start. Now look at this. WKMtrust.com. This is Wesley's website. You should spend time looking at his documents. He did a private identification. That's the email he got from the Secretary of State. It says, it was a pleasure speaking with you earlier today. I am verifying receipt of your July 7th, 2020 attachment in which you advise this office of your status as an American national. I am confirming the correspondence has been printed out and logged and filed. Again, we do not have a registry of status for citizenship in this office. You may wish to reach out to a congressional office for assistance or the U.S. Department of State to see if one exists under their purview. Okay, that's the email he got on that. You got a security agreement on there, legal notice and demand, fee schedule, all that stuff. Let's see here. He's done the Form 56, but he did all this stuff before we talked about what I'm talking about now. Let's see. Where's his automobile? Affidavit of right. Oh, there it is. Right there's his document for his automobile. He's got his Lexus RX 300. And he runs a private plate with a US DOT number. There's his UCC financing statement for it. Let's see. His Toyota RAV4. He puts all his documents online. He's got an assumed name certificate. Okay. But he will tell you the same thing. Read the government's laws, and they will tell you exactly how to do everything. Now, anybody else got a question or anything? Now, Wanda, you're unmuted. Do you have a question? Okay, because she's got the phone in her pocket. Let's see.
Thank you. I didn't have a question. I appreciate your time. It got answered. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, ma'am. Now, I think the first one at the top is iPhone, starting with 571. I don't know how to unmute a phone. because I don't know if you're in here via phone call or via video. So if you're via phone call, I don't know how to tell you to unmute. But David Solomon, go ahead and unmute. Well, you're unmuted.
Hey,
go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate everything you have to share here. So I've heard that you're not the biggest fan of the 1099-A process, but I have a number of reasons and a number of goals related to serving the public and helping people heal that I'd like to use that process to draw money and pay certain expenses with. And I wonder if you know anybody who is very familiar, very successful, very trustworthy, and has years of experience in navigating that. There's a number of people on YouTube who talk about it, but they seem relatively new. And your email, the person handling your email said you don't agree with the process, but I'm wondering if that just means. Okay.
I don't, because I don't think it's the right process.
Meaning what?
Well, one, you're claiming to be the beneficiary, you have no evidence, and two, the 1099-A was not to be used for as a bank account, and that's what people are trying to use it for. The Social Security account is a closed account. Do you know what a closed account is?
No, how would you define it?
It's not how I define it, it's how they define it. Okay?
And how do they define it?
Give me a second.
Thank you.
Got to open up Westlaw again. Because if I'm out of Westlaw for a few minutes, it logs me out.
Yeah, I understand. So I appreciate what you're looking up to share. Are you saying you feel that the people talking about it and using it is not legitimate, it is not possible, or do you feel it's not ethical, or some other type of reason between philosophical and legal?
It's not legal.
It's not. Okay.
Chris Hauser, I've approached him. Smoking Baby has told him. Even Eon made a video about it. And I went on one of his lives, Chris Hauser, and I said, look, I said, Eon's wants to talk to you. So I sent him my number and said, hey, he wants to help you on your case to make it go away. Please reach out to me. He said, okay, but he never did. But the 1099-A process is wrong. The way the system is set up is you have to create the public debt first. Then you can use the right forms for the United States to do what? Get rid of it. You can't use it like a checking account. When you go attach the name and the social to a loan application, what are you creating? You are creating a public debt.
So are you saying you think it's okay to use the 1099-A to discharge that public debt, but not to draw money from directly?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you don't use the 1099-A. See, people that are out there using the 1099-A, have you ever went to the IRS website and read their instructions?
No, I haven't. The only thing I've seen on government websites is they call the birth certificate bonds and the the straw man accounts a type of a scam and fraud, and advise against it.
That's right. A 1099-A requires multiple different forms. And now, look right here. Closed account, an account that no further credits or debits may be added, but remains open for adjustment or set off. I got a lady that I know. I want to tell you a story. A long while back, I was on the phone. There was about 5 of us on the phone, and they used a Federal Credit Union's routing number and their social to try to settle the debt. It was a total amount of $168,000 between all of the ones that did it. They got confirmation numbers. They got reversed within 7 days, except one account, and that was Kenny's mom's credit card. We can speculate why. Did it slip through the cracks? Maybe. One of the speculations was that she was the signer, the creator of the account, is to why. So we decided to test that theory. A friend of mine used her son's social to try to settle her credit card account. She got the confirmation number, did everything, and the financial institution and her started emailing back and forth. And she forwarded me the email, and they plainly stated, you cannot use a closed account in this manner or to settle this. The Social Security account is a closed account. It isn't set up for credits and debits like a checking account. It is set up for set off and discharge. Well, before you can set off and discharge, you got to create the debt.
So there's different opinions on this, including David Robinson, who beginning of his book, he says this stuff is true or false. So it makes me a little, is he doing this for his protection, and a little hesitant. But wouldn't a credit card bill be a debt?
The credit card application was a promissory note. Now look at here. Here's the instructions. You just said you're not reading it. What's the very first line? Instructions for forms 1099A and 1099C. That is just two of the documents that have to go with it. It's not the only two.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, people are running around out there thinking these gurus know what they're talking about. But I'd question, have you read the instructions? What does Chris Hauser say? Chris Hauser says, I'm the beneficiary because I receive benefits. Okay, where's your evidence that you're the beneficiary? People run around saying that's my name and my number, and I can prove that wrong. See, you're running around trying to do processes, which is a method, without understanding the principles behind it. And then when it don't work, you get mad and call the government corrupt. You can throw a rock and hit a teacher that claims to know a process that will work, but do they ever show bona fide evidence that it worked?
Yeah.
Nobody in Chris Hauser's group has ever showed anything. The W-4 process, yeah, some people has had successes with it. Has everybody? No. When they don't, they probably did something wrong. But if it's the government's obligation and the trustees are listed and you are the agent, it's not hard to understand. But you have the First Amendment right to believe what you want. If you believe in that process, in spite of the evidence in front of you, more power to you.
Well,
I'm not trying to be mean.
I take the same stance you take as seeing the evidence, and with people with the people who've said all they said, like Felicia Jackson and Coach MT, anybody can say anything, and then where's the proof? And so there's so much information on so many different legal sites that it seems like some people are just getting started on sharing what information to review to get a comprehensive understanding. I'm all up for reading stuff to have a comprehensive understanding, but there's such a massive amount of legal and trust stuff out there that until somebody writes a textbook for this stuff, it seems reasonable to have some type of an organized guide and collection of info related to, hey, here's a goal, here's a process, here's the evidence, here's steps 1 through X, and straightforward, just like dental surgery instructions.
Well,
Look
look here.
straightforward, but
There are textbooks everywhere. You say until somebody writes a textbook. Look at here. The law of trusts, practical treatise on the law of trusts. You got law books galore at your free disposal.
Right. I appreciate that. And I see that there's a lot of info. What I'm saying is for the W4 process or something else like that, we could see these, we could comb through all this stuff. We could write down all these things, try to hold it in mind. Or, like a good research paper says, okay, here's a sentence. This is law. Here's the book it's in. Here's the pages on it, references it. And it's a very concise collection of specifically relevant info. It's not, here's 20 bucks, here's 20 books. One of them probably contains an idea that you're looking for.
Well, let's show you this. It's not there. Let's see. You have no idea how much information when it comes to law that is out there. Okay. Let's see, content types. You see this little short table of contents? That's short. Specialty areas.
Yeah, I know there's
now
a massive amount of info.
American Jurisprudence 2D. This is one of two encyclopedias of law that tells you everything.
Okay. Yeah, so to me, seeing something just like that is close to useless, as opposed to like, here's a principle, here's something you can do, here's the stuff you were talking about with court. It's referenced in the specific link in a specific paragraph and sentence.
It is not useless. The government publishes everything for you to read. There's a law library in every city. There's a law library in every town. All you got to do is go look. The government publishes a lot of this stuff online for free. And you're sitting there saying that it needs to be simpler. Really? How much simpler can it be?
I'm not saying it needs to be simpler. I'm saying having it be clearly organized and structured based on a category of a specific type of action. Just
it is
in terms of being, yeah, okay.
It is categorized. You want to learn about trusts?
I don't think I need to learn 100% of the information about trusts. If there's 18 specific sentences related to one of these matters, I think it would save a lot of people a lot of time who want to go through this, just having the specific relevant snippets of information with references to the bodies where it
does not work that way. There is not going to be a relevant snippet that you're going to get. You are either going to care enough to learn or you are not. They write the books, you can get them for free and learn how this game is played, or you're going to run around looking at every process, every Tom, Dick, and Harry puts out there, and you're never going to get anywhere. The government publishes everything, and you're complaining about how they publish it when they tell you how it works. So read their documents. And you talk about not having time. I drive a truck for a living. I do 14 hours a day. And for the last month and a half or more, I've worked almost every day. And I still made time over 10 years to take 1 or 2 weekends a month to read. And I read their stuff. That's the reason why I come back, and when I tell you their stuff don't work and they're doing it wrong, it's because I somewhat know what I'm talking about. Do I have all the answers? No one man does. But I've got attorneys behind the scenes that send me messages and said, you know what? You'd pass the bar. And they know I've never went to freaking law school. I read their stuff. Look at this website.
Yeah.
Look at this website,
Thank you.
passingbucks.com. These people got sued by the DOJ to stop them from telling the truth about what a trust is and how to do it. And those books are not cheap. To get them both is $550 to $600 maybe. Let me see. Our books. Okay. And they purposely priced them the way they priced them. Volume 1 is $50. Volume 2 is $550. Why did they price it that way? Because they knew, no offense, sir, but I'm listening to how you're talking. Somebody like you would go to volume 2, never learn volume 1, and you would get yourself in trouble. Volume 2 tells you exactly how to set everything up with templates, but the average person would go to volume 2 first instead of learning the basics in volume 1. And guess what would happen? They would get in trouble. And if you don't believe me about the lawsuit, guess what? It's on their website. Wynn versus DOJ. They beat the DOJ to publish this set of books so the people could learn it. But people don't want to spend money either. People think everything should be free, and free goes against nature because there is nothing free.
I don't think it's that people don't want to spend time or money. I think that people want to know how to be efficient about going about their goals. I'm all up for learning this stuff to the degree that it's necessary. And I think that you might have a personal passion and mission to have a deeper knowledge base than I do to achieve a certain goal. For me, as long as I know how to achieve, yeah.
We have 5 minutes and the Zoom will cut off. So I just wanted to say, I'm so grateful that all of you came. I want to give Pastor the time to finish the last 5 minutes and cover anything that is necessary and pertinent. I think my vision for bringing him on here today was to break down in small groups. So you don't have to learn everybody's states. You can learn your state. So if that's your small portion of what you need to learn and read, then it's only your state that you're in. And the small group, you can disperse, and each person can come back and say, you take these 10 pages, you take those 10 pages, and then you can collectively come back and teach each other. And so it's not on one person's shoulders. So we just have to come together and no division, because division is what is wrong with our country. So Pastor, if you want to go ahead and finish and give out your Telegram and any information that you want to share so that we can end this, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, just be careful with all these gurus out there promising you gold. They're not always right. And they sound good because why? The average person lacks the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? I told you earlier, the United States Constitution with analysis and interpretation. The Constitution is supposed to be one of our most important documents, but no one wants to go read the 2,800 page book that is free to download. Guess what? When somebody said that to me, I said, you know, they're right. And I started reading it. Did I read all of it? No. I read the portions that I felt were applicable. And then I read more of it as time went on. I read court cases. I read their documents. That's the reason why I say the things I say. Yes, the recording will be available once it is rendered. It's a 4-hour video, and it will take a little time to render. So you can probably expect it out to you in the next couple of days, because I'll get it uploaded to Dropbox and Google Drive. So that way, depending on what source you use, you'll have the link. Actually, I thought it was 4 hours. It's only 4 o'clock. We still got another hour. It started at 1, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess I'm on a different time zone. Sorry. So yeah, no rush. If people have questions, if you want to continue to cover, that's fine.
If you want a consult, then get me on Telegram. We've shared it in the group. Find me on there and send me a private message. If you're on TikTok, add me, comment on one of my videos. Hey, I've followed your class and I'll follow you back. That way you can send me a private message. But yeah, Telegram is the best way to get in touch with me. Now, sir, I'm really not trying to be disrespectful, but getting a short, concise, plain statement, it will never work that way. I mean, my dad is teaching what I'm teaching, as in I'm taking it and sharing with my dad what I'm learning. And Doug is one of the subcontractors that used to work with my dad. He happens to be a Mason. He takes my information back to the lodge. The higher ups at his lodge told him to tell my dad, tell him to keep it up. He's on the right track. The Masons set this system up. They know, they're sitting there saying, look, he's on the right track. Tell him to keep going. When the insiders are listening and saying, he's right, that makes my head go, huh? I didn't expect that. I don't expect the insiders to come to me and say, or come to my family and say, he's right. And it's really, in my mind, I'm just a regular Joe. I come from down south. I just got in a situation like most of us that we felt like we were being done wrong. And I started studying, and God has turned it into something more than I could have ever imagined. I am so humbled. I never expected the amount of support I got from all of you. I really didn't. And I can't thank you enough. And I don't like showing my emotions in front of people, but God has a way of doing things. He
Well,
really does.
you're totally a genuine and honest man, and that comes through your words, through your energy, and how you speak. And I know your wife is too. I've talked to her less, but you know, I know you're good people, and I appreciate your presence here and all that you've learned, and you're sharing like 10 years worth of you putting together a picture. And if people see the simplicity of it, they'll know that, yeah, it'll take a little work, but if we work in groups, we'll get it done faster. And if they need a consult, they can have a private one-on-one. If your wife wants to put up your Venmo, someone's asking for your Venmo directly, or Cash App, if she wants to put that up.
I know this. I sit here. Some people get intimidated by me, like, I won't name some family members, but they say, well, you have to always be right. And what I said is, yeah, this information is too serious. In the back of my mind, I know what I'm teaching, that if it's not right, then I feel like it's my fault if you get in trouble. And I look at the information as being so important that it makes the difference between being free or a slave. And the last thing I ever want is to be responsible for someone doing something the wrong way and getting in trouble. Because I'll take that personal. I will feel like that's my fault. Because what did I do wrong? What area of information did I have wrong if it's not right? You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I do take this stuff personally because I'll say it bluntly, it's your ass on the line. And I know that. The stuff I'm teaching, I'm speaking to me too. I mean, the stuff I want to do, I'm a little disadvantaged because I'm a truck driver. I'm not home to implement a lot of this. I'm on the road. And right now, with the current rates in our system, and they're not wanting to pay us drivers anything that own our trucks, right now I can't even afford to go home. And I'm thankful for my wife because why? She tolerates me. She hears me talk about this more than y'all. She tolerates it because it gets on her nerves. But I love my wife. She's my best friend. Now for homesteads, oh, I just saw that one. I can tell you now, one of the best states to do a homestead in is Tennessee. I got a buddy of mine, Kenny, out in Tennessee that did one. Now let's see here. Back to the chat. Let's see. So, and any questions now that I've got that out of my system?
Hello, Pastor.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. I am a truck driver myself, owner operator. I know where you're coming from.
Oh, they ain't trying to pay us nothing. I couldn't believe it. I broke down, not yesterday, day before. I blowed my inside back axle drive tire on it, and it took out the airbag and the mud flap. Last year, that tire cost me around $400. That tire this year, $1,000. A steer tire this year, he can attest to this. A steer tire is over $1,200 this year. Last year they were $600. Freaking government's killing us.
Yeah, 'cause I just spent $2,600 just on 2 tires for the steers. Hey, are you going to speak on the W4 sandwich, or have you?
No, I haven't. Do I think the W4 is plausible? Yes, and I've never been one to actually teach it. That is just not my thing, because I think it's plausible, yes. But is it the right instrument? I don't know. It might be, because I know that I watched Smoking Baby's webinar. He did it back in November. And the first part of this year when I watched it, when I actually listened to it multiple times, I think at least 3. And me and Smoking Baby, we talk. I've got his phone number, and I called him and I said, I have a question. He said, what? And I said, here's my only problem with this. My dad is self-employed. He is a subcontractor. And being you own your truck, I don't know if you have your own authority or you leased own, but you'll understand this. When my dad does installation work for the box stores, at the end of the year, they give him what? They give him a 1099. What does the 1099 represent? It represents how much credit that company gave to my father's company, right? I said, instead of W4, why are we not doing the 1099? And you know, I never got an adequate answer. Because to me, the 1099 makes sense. If the Social Security trust account is a business and entity. Should you not be reporting how much credit that corporation is getting from the trust at you as the agent on a 1099? And Felicia just told me the 1099 NEC is actually a fairly new form, non-employee compensation. Is it possible that the 1099 miscellaneous or the 1099 NEC is actually the right form, and you send it to the trustees with your cover letter saying, hey, this is what I think my numbers are based on my record. It could be incorrect, but as the agent for this estate, I am to report to you, blah, blah, blah. Can you audit the account, make sure everything's right? And they have access to those accounts. Because to me, the 1099 makes sense. And when I explained that to the Felicia the other day, she's like, that's so freaking simple. That is so simple and so easy to understand. Now, here's the other thing about the W-4 sandwich. They were telling you to do the 1040s. Now they've backtracked and said, don't do the 1040s. Now, let me show you something. This goes right back to prove what I say. They publish everything. IRS Form 6209 PDF. Let's see, where's it at? Is this it? Yes. Nope, that's not it. Where is the here it is. This is it right here. All W-2s, all W-4s, and all 1099s are class 5 gift and estate taxes. Okay. Now, so you see right here, W-2 wage and tax statement. That center column tax class says class 5, right? It's highlighted right there. Class 5. Scroll down to 1040. Right there, next to last line. It's a class 2 or class 6. They're not the same forms. So you're mixing the forms, okay? Now, look right here. 706, United States Estate and Generation Skipping Transfer Tax Return. And then the 709, United States Gift and Generation Skipping Tax Return. When you have a job and they give you a W-4 to fill out, they are giving you, they are giving you that's the estate form, 706 form. When you are giving credit to the corporation, that's the 709, the United States gift return. Those are the class 5 tax returns. So we're already doing things wrong, and there's actually a video on YouTube. I recommend everybody go look. Let's see. Go look up Rob Ryder.
Well, that's one thing about being a truck driver. You ride down the road and listen to the videos or try to.
Yep. Now, let's see. Let's do it this way. Rob Ryder. Video. Let's see. He put out a video on this, and they have a lawsuit in federal court against the commissioner of the IRS. Okay. And it's the affidavit that really got me. because the affidavit they put into court right here, confessions of the Internal Revenue Service, okay?
And confirmed by the
They
Senate.
put
Said
six,
Ron Ryder.
they put 6 claims in their affidavit, and the IRS admitted to 4 of them, one of them being extortion, okay? And the reason for the lawsuit is exactly the point I just brought up, the class 5 and class 2, okay? Now, let me show you this document. Is this it? Let's see. Let me make sure this is it. Yes, this is it. Now, look at this. Right here. Tax class 1, Withholding and Federal Insurance Contribution Act. That's FICA. Because that means there needs to be forms done for FICA. We're not doing them. Tax class 2, Individual Income. Tax class 3, Corporation Income. Tax class 4, Excise. Tax class 5, Estate and Gift. Tax class 6, Non-Master File. Tax class 7, Railroad Retirement. Tax class 8, Federal Unemployment Tax. Okay, so we're not even doing our forms right because these forms are for specific tax classes. See what I'm saying?
So what forms need to go with the W-4?
Well, the reason why I say that the W-4 was probably a problem is you're putting a 1040, which is tax class 2,
right,
with a W-4, which is a tax class 5. Now, the reason why I say the W-4 document alone is not probably a bad thing is because why? When you are going into that corporation and you are spending your hard-earned money, you are giving them a gift.
Right.
So should you, instead of the W-4 in the 1040, should you not put the 709? But what is simpler? Instead of doing that, do a 1099. They're using the trust. The Social Security trust isn't you. They're getting their money from the trust. Now I showed you the definition of the coupon, so here's how it works. They send you the bill and they tell you to send the coupon back with payment, right? Now, the reason why the government set it up this way is they need the currency to flow. So you send the coupon back and you send the payment. The coupon ends up getting sent to the Treasury. The Treasury pays the coupon. That keeps the corporation going. The payment that you send is the investment trust that's on the stock market that the investors get dividends in. Okay? That's the reason why it's both sides of the ledger. Now, corporations do what is called the accrual method when they do their tax reporting. We're not doing the accrual method. We're doing what's called the cash method. We're only claiming one side of the account. For example, your bank. Let's say you make $50,000 a year. You get a statement. You say, I made $50,000 this year. But the bank says, oh no, we're claiming 100 because they claim both sides of the ledger. They claim the credit side and the debit side. Now, the credit side for them is a liability to us, so they switch it over to an asset. They say they loan out that money. They have to convert it because as long as it's a liability on their books, they have problems. They have to pay taxes. They have to do this. Well, the problem is they know that, but you don't. And since you're not reporting it, guess what? You're volunteering to do the taxes. Now, iPhone 571 has had his hand up for a while. Can you unmute? Because I've asked him if he can figure out how to unmute. Go right ahead. Gallo, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask really quick, is there a way, or are you aware of a way to not have to use your legal birth name?
Yeah, you have the right to declare who you are at any time you're ready.
Awesome. Thank you for the answer.
Look, Eon, I sent him a email 3 years ago. And I said, hey, I like what you're saying. I got Westlaw. I can probably help you out. 2 years later, he finally got seen my email and called me. I just woke up. And on the phone, it said EE space ON. And the first thought that went through my head is this is probably a spam call. But I'll answer it, see who it is. And he goes and says, introduces himself, and I recognized the voice. And I said, oh, Eon, nice to meet you. And he didn't think he didn't know me from Adam, so he had no intention of ever talking to me again. And but we got to talking, and he realized how much I actually knew, and we've been talking ever since. But the reason I bring him up is he didn't do a legal name change. He forced the courts to call him Eon. He's got 37 cases with that name in it, so he is known as Eon. You have the right to declare who you are whenever you're ready. You just got to be able to prove it that you use it in everyday life. So now, Georgie, I saw that you had your hand raised. And
Yes, I had my hand
next.
raised. I'm here. Okay, so I'm usually a procedures person. Right now, I'm trying to just wrap my head on where to start. Like I just recently submitted, I definitely am of the mindset with like when they talk about the change of status, when they talk about all that stuff. And yes, some folks were trying to say, well, you just have to record it with this little private area. I'm with you in saying, no, that makes no sense. When you're divorcing somebody, you got to notify them. So it's kind of when you're pulling away, it makes no sense to not say anything. It makes complete sense to record and put it as a matter of public record. Let them know what you're doing. Now, there's a whole bunch of other stuff now that you've brought to light that makes perfect sense. But now I'm just trying to figure, and I understand, especially like the W-4 sandwich, I sent out 10 of them. I haven't heard anything recently, but now when you're mentioning all the different classes, like I didn't realize how much I liked paperwork until I've done this. But so I'm seeing that the classes don't match. So now you're saying instead of doing a W-4 with an attached 709, are you talking about the 1099 NEC that I've been hearing coming up now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Non-employee compensation. Why?
Okay. So
they're using the Social Security trust. Okay. They're getting credit from the trust. The question is how much?
Okay.
Well, look, the United States can't balance the books if they don't know how much your portion was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what do? You report it properly.
All right. So then I'll look into that one and learn more about that. And then the other thing I wanted to know about was when you talked back in the beginning about establishing yourself as, finding out about being the beneficiary, finding out about, if you are the beneficiary, if establishing that notification. And you had the picture up of the gentleman who did stuff with in Michigan, which I saw that. I'm trying to get an idea of where I need to begin as far as whether it's reading or whatever. Where do I begin to start understanding what I need to do for that? I'm located in Georgia. I was born in Florida, but I imagine my domicile is where it's important.
Yes and no. The birth record is always owned by the state. I'll tell you a story I heard. It's hearsay. I have no firsthand knowledge if it's true or not. But it's a recent story I was told that the guy got a ticket and he took a copy of the ticket. He wrote his letter stating who he was, the authorized representative / agent for the name, and he sent it to the birth state and to the governors and said, your person has an incident that needs to be settled. He went back a couple weeks later before court and looked for it, and the traffic citation was no longer on the docket. It was gone.
Okay.
Now, is it true? I don't know. It was just a story that was told to me in the process of meeting different people that's been doing this process. Okay, this process has been going around for a while. I told you earlier about Popeye. Told you about Ken W. all the way back in 2013. Boris recently went to the vital records in Florida and sit down and had a conversation with the head legal counsel for vital records. And he brought up the fact that it's that head attorney admitted, yes, they own the property. It's their name. Yes, it's a usufruct. Okay. And if you don't know what a usufruct is, look it up in a legal dictionary. It's USU FRUCT. Okay. Now, the attorney actually told Boris, he said, yeah, you got everything right, but you missed one thing. And he said, what is that? He said, you take the property in the area it's doing business in. That's your residence. So you're in Georgia, right?
Right.
Okay. You was born in Florida.
Right.
So the entity is doing business in that county in Georgia. So the attorney said, take it to the county assessor and have the property assessed for value. Now you know how much the bond is worth. Now, I wouldn't necessarily do it because I said it. I would write them a letter stating what your beliefs are and see if that head attorney writes you back and agrees. Because if you have it on their letterhead and then you take it there, the county assessor will do it. Because see, Boris, he didn't have it on a letterhead. He just had it face-to-face. When he took it the next day to the county assessor's office, the young man behind the counter that don't know nothing called him a sovereign citizen. So he said, I'm going back to talk to that attorney and get him to write it out on his letterhead and then take it back to the county assessor.
All right. Think I understand. But I will look at Ken W. and Boris a little further, I guess, and see if I've been trying to figure out how to PM you so that I could get time to really sit down with you away from, not take up anybody else's time. So I did leave something on Telegram. Hopefully somebody finds it.
Oh, I'll find it. If you put a comment that you was in the class, and I'll see that. You know how to get to the discussion group, right?
I was in I'm in the Basilicus Nomos chat discussion area, and I did put a discussion. I think I made a comment from something that you had up here, and so with today's date on it. So hopefully that'll work.
Let's see here.
I'm typing something now saying
Yeah,
I
I
didn't mention
see.
being, you see it
Yeah, I
about my
see.
dad?
Georgina, I see you.
Okay. So, all right, cool. And thank you so far. This is like great. I see you now. Thank you. This is great information. It's just one more piece of the puzzle. As I was talking to folks this morning, this is a mosaic that we got to figure out. There's there's a lot of pieces. So thank you. And I will continue to talk to you on Telegram.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Now, Max Reader, how's it going, brother?
Hello, hello. I've been enjoying your talk, your presentation, and the way that you present information. Thanks so much for doing this.
Yeah, Max Reader. I just met him the other night on Telegram. He didn't know me from Adam. And
on TikTok.
Not Telegram, on TikTok. And we spent probably almost 2 hours talking. And it really spurred his mind into asking right questions.
It's good. Good chat.
Let me interrupt real quick. Hey, Randall Smith, will you please mute? Carry on.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you came on and that was an awesome live stream. Just answered so many people's questions. It's funny how many people they perk up so much to hear this stuff. I just want to ask about the relevance of filing federal taxes if you're not a federal citizen.
The trust is.
Okay, and so you're, as the registered agent for the trust, you're responsible for taking care of the paperwork then?
Your only duty is to forward all notices, all demands, and all processes to the principal. Under the 14th Amendment, all corporations, all businesses, and all trusts, those legal fictions, are legal persons and have equal protection under the law.
Okay, so what does that process of forwarding that to the Treasury look like? Do you have to put together numbers yourself, or do you use the numbers the IRS already has?
Personally, you have a record keeping system. Okay, so if you, for example, if you have a credit card, well, a credit card has a two-sided ledger. Let's say your credit card was $500 a month. Okay, you have the credit side, $500, plus you have the debit side, which is another $500 for a total of $1,000. So how much credit from the trust did they actually get? They got $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? You send a 1099 in the name and W-9 or the EIN of the credit card company to the trust, to the trustee. Okay. And you put Janet Yellen in all caps because that's her government name, comma, managing trustee. And you write your cover letter and you say, according to the state code of whatever, the registered agent's sole duty is to forward all notices, processes, and demands to the principal. And being that the back of the social says this is your property and you can ask for it at any time, and being the name is property of the state and you as the trustee for the state, because that's why I say that the beneficiary is probably the state, because who gets the federal funds? It ain't you.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So you write your cover letter explaining your good faith belief and say, here. And now when you get the bill in the mail, if you're going to do that route, you need to be at the post office the next morning, because you also got to look up in your state, what is the requirement that the agent has to follow to send it to the principal. In Michigan, it says you must send it registered mail. In North Carolina, it says registered mail or certified mail. So you have to look at your state and make sure that you follow the rules Because now you're showing a paper trail that you are doing your duty based on your office.
Got you. Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you. And so I'm a couple of years behind. So would I do anything differently?
Do what now?
I'm a couple of years behind on filing. So would I do anything differently?
I don't feel bad. I ain't filed in 8 years.
So what's the point of it then?
My dad ain't filed in 26 years.
So, okay, yeah, you were talking about this when I called you, that you said it's kind of like you can do it, you can do your own accounting, or you don't have to. So like, that's
the way I
just
look at it is,
hilarious to me.
here's the
What?
way I look at it. When I get a letter from the IRS, I will handle things accordingly. I will forward the process to the Treasury and say, hey, your person has an issue that needs to be settled.
Right, okay, awesome. Oh, okay, I like it.
Now, am I debating in my mind to change that tactic? Possibly, because why? If you have all these 1099s that you have had processed, and then you take all those 1099s down to your CPA, and then you do a tax return. Now, this is just speculation. Is it possible to get all that credit back? Possibly.
Okay, it's so weird deprogramming from all this and still like noticing my brain is still in an old way of thinking.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, like I'm trying not to object, but like I'm just, yeah, I got it. No, it makes.
I mean,
more
Felicia put up a video on her YouTube channel the other day where the lady attested to the fact that she did the process through a W-4. And she put on the 1040 her bank account number. And they sent her a return for $18,000 over the purchase of a car.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that tells me it's possible to get those credits back.
Yeah, that was 25 years prior.
Yeah, that's 25 years ago.
What's your opinion of the recent Inflation Act and IRS stuff? Like, is that just a fear tactic, or what is that about?
The IRS does not have police powers. They don't have the authority to do that.
They don't have enforcement, so it's just propaganda.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that's it. Put the fear of God in people.
Yeah.
And the sheep will fall for it.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You're welcome, sir. Now, let's see. If there's any questions in the chat that y'all see, because I can't watch it all the time, ask if you can, just tell me what the questions are. Well, some people probably don't want to come on and talk. Some people just want to ask privately, and that's fine. So until then, anybody else got any questions?
Hey, Pastor, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you, Humble.
Okay. Yeah, this is Ascension. I've talked to you the other day a few times and such like that. Glad to be here. I'm one of those like your father who has taken and did some research and researched the IRS law. Now, don't take anything for what I say, but I never paid him either. You know, and it's been quite a while, as a matter of fact. And it was going on the fact of the earlier stuff when the IRS chiefs, some of those guys resigned because they found out there is no law. It's supposed to be voluntary compliance. And the only ones, according to the actual statute, which I had a picture of, says it's, Washington, D.C., it's District of Columbia, which is, a certain radius of people within that radius who are federal employees who are the only ones that are actually required to. Could you confirm or deny that, as you know?
Well, under Title V, don't quote me on the code. I would have to go look. I think it's 552A of Title V. It says an individual is a U.S. citizen. Well, if you can prove you're not a U.S. citizen, that means you're not an individual.
Ah, okay. So you have to have your state national or at least UCC 1 done?
No,
No? Okay.
no. I did a FOIA request with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Office, and I got a response back that said, we've checked both our databases and we have no responsive records.
And that's what the immigration office, you said?
It's the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services.
Oh, U.S. citizen.
And they are part of Homeland Security. So how can I be a U.S. citizen if I have never applied for it?
So you don't get it by birth, just by birth automatically then, huh?
No, your birthright is your citizenship of the several states.
Oh.
The 50 states are 50 sovereign countries. They are a foreign jurisdiction to each other. That's the reason. And then they created a compact and created the United States. The United States is a foreign jurisdiction to the 50 states. Both have citizenships. Go read the slaughterhouse cases, U.S. versus Anthony, I think it's 1872 or 1873. Go read Jones v. Timmer from 1993. You will find out very quickly that both have their own citizens. The question is which are you? When you filled out the document, the government document, and you put the name, you put the social, you put the address, what is actually going on that paper? You're putting the trust name on the paper, not your name.
So that would be the in large letters, right? The name in large letters. Okay.
Well, they can't even print lowercase letters. I was talking to someone on the live last night in Telegram, and he said when he went to the bank to get a check, and he said they put his name in, and it prints out on their computer. And the lady at the bank admitted that it will not print lowercase letters.
You know, also at the time when this, I thought of the straw man was popular, I probably about 8 years ago, I actually copyrighted my uppercase name for a while on there. Never heard anything back on it, but I thought that because I think I did it because I was reading about that if they somebody uses your copywritten name, there's a lot of penalties attached to that as well.
You can't copyright your name, but if you do things right, you can trademark your name. That's the difference.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now, let me address this. Gallo, you put in the chat on related note of becoming a sovereign citizen. There is no such thing. There's no such thing in law as a sovereign citizen. You call yourself a sovereign citizen, you're going to bring a lot of problems. And what I tell people is, if you're using that term, you're either ignorant. Now, ignorance isn't a bad thing. I'm ignorant of astrophysics. I've never studied it. Or you're an agent. One of the two. You can't become that because it doesn't exist in law. So I wanted to address that right quick. But yeah, if you ask the government if you ask the right people the right questions, you'll get the right answer. Now, Heather, you said you sent your daughter's preschool a 1099 NEC, and I want to know what the receiver will get, a check or a tax form or payment. Well, one, you sent it to the daughter's preschool. Wrong place to send it. You know, like the people out there teaching the A for V process, accepted for value. They say, send it to the CFO. Trust me, preaching to the choir here. I did it because I listened to them too. Now, but it's the wrong person to send it to. Why? They're not the trustees. The trustees are listed. Now, I'm going to show y'all something here. Do I know this person personally? We ain't got but 15 minutes left, so I'm going to show y'all what this document. And I copied and pasted it. Everything this guy says, if it's legitimate, and I believe it is, okay? This document right here, who are you? This guy is named Eric. He's deceased now. My buddy up in Minnesota, Crazy Mark, I trust him. He's a beast in court. Man, he's got a bag of rice with a dollar symbol on it. If he's got that on his hip, they won't let him into court. And he's one that will go find the judge's address and the DA's address, home address, and their real name, and he'll send them a bill for stepping on his rights. Freaks them out. So he sent me this because he said he knew this guy. So here's what Eric said. In regard to the use of my notice and demand by patriot idiots in conjunction with a court case, I have been in this freedom fight since 1964. In the beginning, not knowing any better, I accepted the teachings then prevalent among adherents. During my early years, I learned most of what was then prevalent was total nonsense, non-think, patriot idiot rat poison. Unfortunately, the same nonsense is even more widespread today than back then. I suffered through it all until 1970, when I was prosecuted by the IRS for criminally failing to file or pay income tax. I went to federal district court in Los Angeles in 1970 all by myself with absolutely no plan of defense. I had filed no documents with the federal prosecutor or federal court. I was confident my creator would guide me safely through the battle or not, as he determined my situation outcome would best serve his intentions. There were only 5 people in the federal courtroom: the judge, bailiff, clerk, IRS prosecutor, and me. The case was called. The prosecutor stood and said, "Citizens of the United States have an obligation to blah, blah, blah." At which time I stood and said, "I object." Federal judge, "Why are you objecting? He hasn't said anything yet." Me, "Well, he said citizens of the United States have all those objections and obligations, and he was listing all those obligations he was listing, and that may be true, but he doesn't have anything in his file to put me in that class." Judge, "Are you renouncing your citizenship?" Me, "How can I renounce that which I never applied for?" Judge, "Where were you born?" Me, "At the time of my birth, I had just gone through a terrible ordeal. I was gasping for breath. I could not read or write. I did not know who I was, where I was, or even what I was." Judge, "What did your mother tell you?" Me, "At the time of my birth, I did not understand the child-mother relationship. I could not pick my mother from a lineup of one." Judge, "What is on your birth certificate?" Me, "At the time of my birth, I was not then aware of the importance of such a document. I do not know if one was created or not, and I deny that any was." And pointing my finger to the IRS prosecutor, I said, "He can't prove it." Judge, "I am taking this matter under consideration and you will be notified." That was 45 years ago, and I'm still waiting. I have never filed or paid or been bothered by the IRS. Everything he said there was based on first-hand knowledge, not hearsay. Okay, some of y'all might say, "Wait a minute, I thought he would know who his mom is." And not a single of us remembers my birth. It's all hearsay. If they get you to agree to hearsay, guess what? You're going to pay a price.
Pastor, we can't hear you. I think you lost signal. I guess I'm the host now because he must have dropped off for a second. He'll be back. I thank you all. Thank you all for asking all these questions.
Actually, I got kicked off. I don't even know if I'm still nope, Felicia, you're the host.
Yeah.
You'll have to put me back.
No problem. There you go.
Okay, because I am going to try to find this video.
While you're doing that, we have about 13 minutes, and I didn't actually tell you I was going to do this because I just decided a little bit ago, but so there are holy names of God. Most people know of 72 names of God that are found in the Holy Bible in Exodus, and they're all in Hebrew, but there's different pronunciations for them, and all of them have connections to different dates on the calendar. And I was looking at one of his holy names that is connected to his incarnation for this lifetime, and it just so happens to be the holy name of God for propagation of the light, which means it brings the primordial light that spawns and sustains individuals, civilizations, liberty, and justice, helps to disseminate on earth the light that informs and warms human relations through higher understandings. It brings the light of knowledge that elevates human emotions and thoughts to defeat inner and outer saboteurs, and it protects against unjust provocation, accusation, attack, as well as dispersing negative energies attracted by impure thoughts and deeds. It instills love of peace, of justice, of science and the arts, and brings distinction through the written or spoken word, as well as in a political or social science. So that is a name that his birthright has those divine qualities of God, and it just shows how these angels, these holy names, are connected into someone's life and brings these qualities forth that they need in order for their soul to elevate and bring these divine qualities through. So this perfectly describes you as far as I know you, and I just wanted to share that while you're bringing that video up.
I appreciate it. Now, y'all heard me read that document. Now, some of y'all are old enough to remember Johnny Carson. Some of y'all may not. But listen to this.
Mm-hmm. What is your name? What is your name? I refuse to answer. No. My name is Johnny Carson. How do you know that to be your name? Well, it's on a birth certificate, legally recorded. That's hearsay. That's hearsay? Of course. Well, I mean, if we record... That's still hearsay. Suppose you were born, and I must assume that you were born because you're here tonight with us. There's a certificate made out not by you, certificate made out by somebody else. That a boy child was born to Mr. and Mrs. Carson, and that he was named Johnny. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you know that to be the fact. That means you have read that to be the fact. Okay? Yeah, I see what you mean. In other words, I only have to go by what is recorded. You're pleading guilty to something that you don't know of your own knowledge.
Ehrlich, one of the best attorneys of his day. He says you're pleading guilty to something you don't even have knowledge of. And I just thought of something, and this is going to fit right in. Me and Floyd actually had this discussion a while back. Let's close that. Let's see. Fearless Floyd Show. Videos. Y'all need to go watch this video, and y'all can blame me for this video. The reason I say that, you remember when I played the phone call and they said that red serial number on the bottom was a receipt number? I want you to think about it. She said it's a receipt number. What do you get when you pay for something, you get a receipt. If I come to your house and you say, hey, I got this chair for sale at my shop and I give you cash for it, you go to your little receipt book, you write me a receipt. But guess what we are not doing? And KW is the one that brought this to my attention. He said, look at the certificate of live birth. It is signed, sealed, and delivered. So I went to my Westlaw account and I found a delivery receipt. Some people have heard a delivery receipt that the birth certificate is a warehouse receipt or warehouse goods. So look at that. I hereby acknowledge the delivery and receipt of all property as described in this warehouse receipt number, number of receipt, and certify that the property has been received on the above date in good condition and order unless otherwise indicated on this receipt in writing. So what do? You put on this delivery receipt, the birth date is in error. It's a registered, no, there's a mistake on the birth date. Don't use the word error. A mistake can be fixed and error cannot. So there's a mistake. The birth date needs to be changed to the file date because the registered organization was born on the file date. Okay. So when I shared this with him and we discussed it, he made that video. Now, this is all part of handling your commercial affairs. Now Vital Records knows you received that negotiable instrument. Because that's what it is. It's a negotiable instrument. It's a trust certificate. It's a debenture. It's a warehouse receipt. It holds many titles that are applicable at certain times. They don't know that you've received it, and so their books are open. They can't close their book, so to speak, and say, yep, the right party received it. And yes, this template does actually exist in almost every state. I had just remembered that. So we got 5 minutes left, and I know it's going to cut off in 5 minutes or less. So Glenn, you'll be the last one. Go ahead and ask your question.
I was just wondering, I have 2 birth certificates.
Mm-hmm.
And does that change anything, or how do I handle that?
No, it don't change anything.
Okay.
You have a right to declare who you are. Okay.
For both? For both of them?
For either one. I mean, I'm assuming you have 2 because you might have been adopted.
No.
But you have 2 different birth certificates, right?
Yes, there's the serial numbers at the bottom of the birth certificate are sequential. So why I got 2, I don't know.
But they're identical birth certificates other than the serial number is what you're saying.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay. When you said you had 2, I was wondering, does that mean the original birth and an adoption? Now I'm on the same page. So yeah, you do a delivery receipt for both of them.
Okay.
You got 2 instruments.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, with 2 different serial numbers.
Right. Okay. That's what I was wondering. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir. So, Felicia, any thoughts?
Oops. Oh, I was muted. Yeah, lots of thoughts. I just have to put them all down on paper now and start creating a template for Ohio, Kentucky area for this process to simple process to work because it makes sense.
Yeah. And you know, all those people I've named that talked about the agency, I've heard their stuff. But and it's like when I did it on that traffic ticket and I seen what happened, it's like it sunk in. It's like you hear it, you know, those people know what they're talking about because they are in the private. They're not all out here doing flashy stuff. They show you their evidence, but for some reason I had a blind spot. And when I did it myself, it's like, holy crap, this is real. It's just people have a hard time fathoming this until they do it. And then it's like the veil comes off your eyes and you're like, holy crap.
As far as the recording goes, guys, I know everyone's going to want that. Please give him 2 days at least before you start bombarding my email or his or Shane, whoever you found the Zoom link from. And when it's done, I promise I will start sending it out. And if you don't receive it, today is Monday. If you don't receive it by Thursday, then you can email or text me and I'll send it to you.
My appointment tonight is, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, by the way.